lot of people probably know stuff like that confirmation as well, that notification.
And we're live. And I'm assuming that other people are hopefully on their way in. Yes, yawning makes for excellent radio.
At least, hey, there's not dead air when there's yawning. Hello, lads, lasses, and NB badasses. Welcome to another week. Okay, let's get food's important. Self-care is important. Nom nom nom. Get food. Assuming that the music is like died down for now, let's go with the opening spiel of like, yes, welcome to the Alchemy bench, where right now it's just like, and hey, George RP. Right now it's just
hey,
be Summer and a Geek and like John Brockman as well. Yes, schedules are fucking stupid.
I am currently resetting my sleep schedule because tomorrow is the first day of classes for the fall semester, and it sucks. Going from 12 p.m. wake up time to 7 a.m. wake up time.
Oh yeah,
Not fun.
That's not fun. Because like my older brother had to like change his sleep schedule too. He would day shift. I think it was like 4 a.m. to like 4 p.m. And then on the third day or the fourth day, something like that, it's like half a day, so that like it only works 40 hours. It works for like a fulfillment center at like Amazon, but not for Amazon itself, for the company that like is in charge of the contracts for like running the robots, as it were. Yes, good stuff. But now he has to do like 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. but like 10 p.m. to like 4 a.m. on Wednesdays. And also, oh yeah, he was like doing like Sunday to like Wednesday, and now he's doing Wednesday to Saturday. And he only got 1 week
schedules are just that easy to switch around.
Yes, only with 1 week, one extra week of like prep to do that too.
Because humans are machines, interchangeable cogs. That's how we work.
So hopefully we'll get more people to like join us. Hey, you know how we are, Mithril, Joan P. Say the word, and yes, we can like send you the link as a word. We can join.
Absolutely happy to, because I don't talk good.
Do you have up the patrons list?
I do. So, first up, thank you to Leto.
Thank you, Leto. Hopefully you're doing well.
And Marty.
Thank you, Marty.
And Malin.
Thank you, Mylin.
And Eli.
Thank you, Eli.
And Yo.
Thank you, Yo, who's in the chat.
And the Fuck Boys.
Yes, thank you, that's the Fuck Boys. And Mehmet, I hope you're doing well.
Indeed. And Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Finally, Vonrek.
Thank you, Vonrek. Why do you give us money? This is kind of like, look at us. It's just like one cishet white guy and one cis-passing white guy. Hey, that's just going to like yap on the internet about like whatever comes to mind. Look at my room. Look at my room. You see that pooper tutu over there. You see like a bunch of like a crap out there. Here's an empty like a Rockstar Energy can that I haven't like put away. And I just toss it in the background because, like, you pay for this. Well, you don't pay for much. So, I guess that's what it's all because. So you had to, like, change your sleep schedule. So that's how your week has been. It's RIP Sean Locke. What? Okay, welcome. Hello, David. Welcome. It's good to see you. But, like, RIP, like, Sean Locke. I don't know who Sean Locke is. And hey, Marty, how you doing?
Is Sean Locke related to John Locke? English comedian and actor.
Oh, I don't know about this.
Does not look familiar, but it's too bad to hear about that.
I think I have looked at in like places, but like, but yeah, he recently did pass away, so that is news. Okay, at 58, so it's just like that is like I kind of said that's like that's too young. Wonder what he died at. Let's see.
Obviously, he was killed by whoever killed David Graeber. There's a
Hmm.
serial killer targeting men in their late 50s, and it's smoking.
Oh yeah, so like yeah, Marty, I didn't know. I was fully asleep when the premiere for that interview went up because it's just like I didn't know that like Marty, you did like a tea with TikTok. Mithril Sean and Locke was a great comedian. Well, he is a British comedian, so maybe he's like more well known in like UK and like Europe as it were because like yeah, the name's not familiar to me. I think the face is kind of familiar. I have to like think back of like where he's like been as it were. Yeah, so that
Looking
is
at his IMDb, I don't recognize any of the stuff he's been in or on.
yeah. Yeah. So that's like something that's happened this week. Anyway, anyone in the chat, if you want to like hop into the call because like again, it's just like us two. Yeah, we don't mind because like sometimes we prefer just like the chaos mess of just like seven people trying to like and with four of them talking over each other trying to get a word in edgeline as opposed to just like two guys sitting quietly just waiting for someone to say something. But I do got like things to look talk about as happening this week. I'll go ahead and actually put this link into the live chat because I did read this a full article from Input Mag. OnlyFans is banning porn. uh yeah, it is. It's the thing that like OnlyFans is known for. It's the things that OnlyFans is most famous for. Allow its users, like our friend Phoenix, actually, and others, to be able to like post porn or post nudes to be like a sex worker, to selling pics, to be able
Independent without having to, put up with Pornhub's bullshit or
oh yeah.
Backpage's bullshit or
Mm-hmm.
a pimp's bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. But like, from what I read from the Input magazine article that I just like linked there, is that like it's mostly it seems like unfortunately OnlyFans still got that hand forced in that they had difficulty like trying to like David, you've been on vacation. I can explain it. We're glad to see you back. But OnlyFans hands was forced by like banks and payment processors because they having like a trouble like securing funding as it were. I think investors also like pressured OnlyFans to like to remove porn as well. Because like Tumblr did a similar thing where they were trying to like attract advertisers to
They
Tumblr.
banned the female nipple. No, sorry,
Yeah,
the female presenting nipple.
yes, the female presenting nipple. So the thing that like Tumblr became known for had been banned. So sex sells, but porn doesn't. Or
No, porn sells very well. It's Republicans and Christians are just assholes.
yes, exactly. The anti-sex and anti-sex work lobby is quite powerful to pressure. Again, it was like the banks and payment process that pressure the financial to pressure OnlyFans to like make decisions that they have that they really wish that they didn't. And so it was like now after that, just like where are the like people is where are the people that like do post up like nipple shots and so we're there for money they're going like they say that like the nudity is still allowed but what isn't allowed is sexually explicit content and it's kind of like porn already had the problem before. I forgot that I think it was in Congress or somewhere that like the definition of porn is like I know porn when I see it.
And often they don't.
Oh, you've only vaccinated, David. That's good to hear. Now you got the 5G in you. Now you got like the superpowers. But yeah, it's like the creators are feeling betrayed. They have basically the new policy is going to take effect on like October 1st, and the fact that it's like the payment processors that like are forcing a hand where they can't really do like payments that they were and all that sort of stuff. It reminds me how because I'm a poker player, I know this stuff. In 2006, the unlawful internet and gambling
I know you
enforcement.
said poker player, but it sounded like pokey player. So you're just about to brag about your Pokemon skills?
And yet, Red and Blue was the only Pokemon game I played. Okay, I played a little bit of Pokemon Go, but it's just like I don't uninstall that app. But But poker, I barely know her too, so kind of related to sex. And there's a bar in Montana with liquor in the front and poker in the back. But like in 2006, the bill of the Unlawful Internet and Gambling Enforcement Act was trying to basically ban already illegal gambling, but that's the intent, as it were. In that, like, all they did for that bill was just make it illegal for the banks and the financial institutions to process transactions from unlawful internet gambling. What is unlawful internet gambling? Only God knows, for one thing, because like because like if you ask like people who are against poker, they say no, it's clearly federal laws that the online poker is against the law. But you ask like the sites at the time when they were servicing the U.S. Customers, they say no. The players themselves have to like find out if in their jurisdictions if in fact like poker is like legal or not. And my state, Washington State, was one of the first states that actually make it clearly explicit. It's like, no, online poker is illegal. Online gambling is illegal, as it were. Yet, in casino gambling, perfectly legal in certain places, as it were. As always,
it's only illegal if not rich people can get rich from it.
Exactly, but then because of like federal laws or unclear federal laws, and like the banks just don't want to like touch it because of fear of reprisal from the government, or of like fear of reprisal from like this, that, or the other thing. That's where this is why the banks don't process like gambling checks. This is why absolutely all of the pot shops and the weed shops, even in places where it's perfectly legal to sell weed, Washington State, Colorado, New York City, like Joanna said when she was on, for 71% of the population of America, where it's legal to like smoke pot and buy pot, cash only. The financial institutions, the banks, the major banks, Visa, MasterCard, they don't want to touch weed because there's still federal laws against like pot, as it were. And so they don't want to take the risk at all of like touching the like things, as it were. And hey, Tom McDonald, welcome on in. Don't forget, you can join in the call if you can.
No, he's not allowed anymore. He's too late.
But we could totally wait for Joey to come in after they are done with.
The reason there are that many flowers there is because people keep on shitting on them. It's good fertilizer.
But those are not the gravestones that they are the gender neutral bathrooms. Those are the gravestones of Ronald Reagan, Rush Limbaugh, and
Phyllis Schlafly.
Donald Rumsfeld too. Oh, I'm about to say like Glenn Beck, but it's like no. Fortunately, Glenn Beck is still alive. And hey, Tom.
Hi.
No uncoded messages over open channels, Jonathan.
I know.
He's not saying anything about Glenn Beck. It's no encouragement there.
So you're saying that we shouldn't piss on Glenn Beck?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's uncoded, but I think it's legit. I think we can do
that. So it's unfortunate that was going to happen to like OnlyFans, as it were, and for the many of the disabled, trans, and people of color, black people that like their only source of income is like OnlyFans. What little money they make off of OnlyFans. So it's just like I don't know what's the way around with it. It seems like the OnlyFans going away same way as like Patreon, because Patreon did have to crack down on adult content being like sold on Patreon, as were like a while ago, as the Input magazine mentioned, like in 2018. Yeah, because again, the payment processors were pressuring Patreon to do that as well, because like they don't want to like touch the adult stuff, as it were.
Hey, Joey.
Hey, Joey.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
7.
I'm tired.
Three.
I didn't go to bed last night until like 3:30 in the morning, but I had a great day yesterday. Actually, just like a lot of fun. I was like part of a friend's birthday stream. That's an echo, because like it was her birthday stream, so I was like just playing golf with friends with her and other friends, and then just like chatting with her as she plays Variant. But how are you been, Joey?
I've been hanging in there.
Yeah.
You're living with the How close are you to the motorcycles?
I'm on the edge of town, but it's a small town.
You said that. So you're surrounded by stinky bikes, loud stinky bikes.
Yeah, I am not this week. This week it's all nice and quiet. They've all gone. But last week, oh man.
Motherfuck, yeah. I've seen, well, obviously over many years, I've seen pictures and sound and clips on porn sites of what goes on there. So I read a story too this week about underage sex trafficking of underage girls. I guess mostly girls in Sturgis.
Yep.
That did you hear about that?
Oh, we hear about it every year. It happens every single year. They bust somebody for human trafficking. Oh, they have done that every single year for the last, 20 some years that they've done the rally. I mean, it's literally every single year. There's at least a dozen human trafficking victims, usually girls, someplace here in town, and they've got them out there advertising on the streets.
Oh,
that's the most disgusting thing about it is you'll be walking along the street, and if you quote unquote look a certain way, I'm guessing that means desperate single dude, they will send a girl, and she will really be a girl, up to you with like a flyer, and she'll say, and on the flyer it'll have just a website, and then you have to access the website, and then you start your process of going through to get one of these girls set up so you can then partake of a human trafficking victim. Like, it's just, and it's every year, every single year. And most of these people, I'm telling you, like, the rally has looked like a giant Trump rally.
Yeah.
Every single year for the last 5 years.
Yeah, you said
that's who these people are. Like, these are the same people who are hollering about human trafficking victims, the same people going on and on about that pizza parlor thing. Like,
but it's okay when they do it.
Yeah, it's different when they do it. When they do it, it's
yeah. The deep state QAnon stuff is all about how the swampy Democrats are into that kind of stuff. And no, it's, well, I suspect every demographic has got a lot of that, because
I'm sure that there's like the only demographic you're gonna find that has a super small minimum amount of people who would even do such a thing are going to be the actual victims themselves of human sex trafficking at some point in their lives. Like, that's the thing is while people are going, well, it doesn't affect me, other people have their entire lives ruined. And like every year for the last 20 years, I just said at least a dozen people. Like, doing the math on that, just here, just in Sturgis alone, that's over 100 victims that their lives will be completely ruined for forever in just the last couple of decades. It's just, it's sad. It's disgusting. It's like, I'm not even sure what we do about it as a society.
Yeah. And that's what they catch. How much doesn't get caught. I read also that a lot of I think 6 to 8 of the people that traffickers that they caught were local to the Black Hills area, and most of the I shouldn't say most, a good number of the victims are indigenous folks.
Yep.
Is that
that happens pretty much every year too. I mean, all of those missing and murdered indigenous women, that statistic that covers all of them. It's like over 1,000 girls a year that disappear who are indigenous, just indigenous alone. That's not even counting how many other girls that they're taking. but just the indigenous girls alone. And they always target teenage girls who are having problems in their house. And like, come on, when you're a teenager, you can have the most stable, loving, supportive parents, and you're gonna rebel. You always have problems in your teenage years because you're a teenager. You're flush with hormones. You don't know how to deal with them. Like, so every teenager is going to have some level of problems with their parents. And that's what they're targeting. They're targeting kids in that age range. So all they've got to do is just get them, you know, groomed enough that they'll come away with them one time. That's all it takes, one time, and boom, they are drugged and they're gone. And it's sad because, you know, especially with indigenous people, you've got all of these weird laws that, because we're semi-sovereign nations, there's only so much that authorities can do on our reservations. And then as soon as you leave the reservation, it's a totally different jurisdiction. And you have to consult the feds on reservation. Off reservation, you're dealing with sheriffs and deputies and stuff. And then once you're dealing with sheriffs and deputies and stuff off reservation,
they usually
exactly. And oftentimes we'll say, well, if you guys would keep better, you know, sight on your kids, well, if you guys would this, well, if you got, as if we are to blame for our children getting stolen. After this many generations of children getting stolen from indigenous people, like we're seeing it in the news constantly. We're at, what is it, 6509 is the last count of how many children's graves that they've found. And these were children that were all taken from their families, just taken so they could go become, you know, Christian people, because if you did that and made them ashamed of who they actually were, then you could then, you know, get them assimilated better, or at least that's what they felt like they were doing. And you end up with all these kids who were traumatized. They come back to the reservation. They've been traumatized. They no longer have the capacity to raise children properly. And you start the vicious cycle that then the missing and murdered indigenous women becomes a part of that. Like, it's all interconnected in this giant, nasty, fucked up web. It's just, it's so horrific. And I like, when I think about it, I don't even know where you start to pull on the threads of that. Like, it's such a tied up knot. Like, where do you start even?
Yeah, one thing I was reading about some of the early, you know, like, I think one of the early generals that was involved in the reservation or in the residential schools said that one of the things that they were doing was to educate the kids into a sort of a individualist, capitalist kind of situation. So when they went back, they would help fix or develop a situation in the reservations that would move towards individual ownership of land instead of communal ownership of land, so that white folks could start buying the land and thereby get around the trees. I don't know if that's something you've heard of, or if I'm.
They used to do that. Yeah, no, they used to do that. You're right on. They used to do that. They used to also, so for a long time, the only women in the United States who were allowed to own property were indigenous women. So guess who got married to white men conveniently? And then usually what the white men would do was outright work her to death or murder her, and then marry themselves a good white woman. And now they have indigenous land because they took their ex-wife's land. And that happened over and over and over again. There was one dude who married 5 different Lakota women to get their land, each one of them adjoining. And now his descendants have this giant chunk of property. Well, the weird part about it is that he did have kids with his first indigenous wife, had a couple more kids with a couple other indigenous wives. So some of his kids were half and half. Turns out the kids who were half and half were the only ones who wanted to stay with the family farm. His kids who were half and half decided to marry indigenous women and indigenous men, And so they started to become closer and closer to full blood.
Mm.
And so now if you look at the family, you can't see that history. You can't visually see the history, but they can tell you about it. They can tell you about how, yeah, their great grandmother was completely taken advantage of and basically worked to death by their great grandfather, who was a total douche. And so these stories are now, you know, in and around reservations, and there's a lot of reservation land that is technically supposed to be tribal land that isn't owned by tribal members. And that's the big reason why. It had to do with how many white dudes figured out that they could get farmland by marrying indigenous women and then work them to death so they could have the land.
We are bad neighbors. We are very bad neighbors.
Well, I mean, when you start off with the whole concept of what's in the discovery doctrine, that just dehumanized an entire globe full of people right off the bat. Like, I mean, when you're told, if you're Christian and European, no, if you arrive in some foreign place and all of these people aren't Christian, go ahead and slaughter them and take their land. It's up for grabs if they're not Christian. Like that's the discovery doctrine, and it's the basis of like all of Australia, all of Canada, all of the United States. Like go through Central and South America, every single country through there, lots and most of Africa. I mean, like there's all of these countries that got affected by settler colonialism, and part of settler colonialism is being you're not neighbors. That's not settler colonialism. Settler colonialism is you've got something, I want it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can't defend yourself against me taking it, I'm gonna have it.
The new world and stuff like that. It's just like people are already there.
This is completely ruining most of my adventure childhood TV shows. I wish
It turns out Roy Roger was a real motherfucker.
Wait, the Indians and the white people did not get along in Bonanza? What?
Actually, Roy Rogers himself was kind of a cool guy.
Oh.
I know nothing about him except for,
my dad used to work on Hollywood Ranch back when I was very, very small. They were still working on it when I was born. But it was the only working Hollywood ranch anywhere in the area, and it was just like maybe 15 minutes from Burbank, and tucked away in this little bitty canyon. And he was the foreman on it, and so we lived on the ranch. We were one of two families that lived on it, and so it was kind of sort of like a hotel for animals when there would be a star in a movie. So like, I forget the name of the chimp that played opposite Ronald Reagan in that movie.
Bonzo?
Betty?
Yes. I can't remember the name of the chimp, but the chimp stayed at our ranch whenever he was doing.
Her name was Nancy.
There was,
for the younger kids, I'm saying his wife was a chimp.
Right? For the younger kids who weren't around back then. But yeah, my dad used to work on this ranch, and we got to meet quite a few different well-known people. One of them was Roy Rogers. One of the Triggers stayed there, or two of the Triggers, the 17th one, and I think it was the 21st one. That's how many Triggers there were.
Jesus, that's amazing.
I
thought somewhere I had in my head that Trigger was stuffed someplace. That was that the original one, or was that just one of them, or am I misremembering the stuffed Trigger entirely?
No, there's a stuffed Trigger. I think there's actually a few stuffed Triggers. I think they stuffed a few of them.
Okay. I have the sort of linear basic storyline of Roy Rogers or cowboy stuff, and you have the Trigger, because there was Trigger, there's just Trigger.
Yeah,
That's
then
true.
you find out there was like 20 something of them.
Yeah.
Mm.
See, like I said, this is completely destroying my childhood, and
But that's just like
I'm a little bit
Benji.
pissed at you, Joey.
There's a bunch of Benjis too. There's a bunch of Benjis. There was a bunch of Lassies.
Oh yeah, I know. There was a bunch of last days. Everybody must get stuff. Why, David? Why are you going to volunteer? And Mithril, yes, the chip killed Reagan, so she's shaped to replace Reagan as president. Interesting.
Somehow, I doubt that because I think the chimp would have made a better president.
I think yes. Beat me to it. Yes, he's.
I mean, it's still possible that like they were able yeah, I imagine that the chip would be like more difficult to control and like be a puppet president as opposed to Reagan. Oh, speaking of like awful people in the leadership of power, I was just going to quickly mention some of the latest news about like Andrew Cuomo, who is. But now, fortunately, who is going to be...
It's just our culture and heritage to harass and insult women.
Yeah, and it's going to be a woman that's going to replace Andrew Cuomo as like governor, Katie Hochul, the first woman governor of New York State in 100 years. And so that will be something. However, for some reason, I don't know why, the New York Assembly suspended impeachment investigation into disgraced Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Well, he resigned, so
That
might be why they did it. I mean, there's not a lot of point if he's except to.
Well, no, there's other things that can come along with impeachment, penalties
Yeah.
and so on.
Plus, if he's impeached, it might involve him not being able to run again, which is an issue.
So
That's some bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess he got
But
consequences.
on the other hand, maybe it means they can get some actual work done.
That was Gerald Ford's reason for pardoning Nixon. Gerald Ford, the president we didn't vote for. It's happened.
Yeah,
like
And
that.
we never got the opportunity to vote
One
for
of
him
them.
because he didn't
Well,
run.
yes, because didn't he run? I thought he ran and lost.
I think he okay. I gotta look that up to be sure, because I mentioned he did actually tried to run and probably did lost, but I don't know how to spell Gerald. Okay, no, there we go. Gerald Ford. Let's see, and was in defeat. He was defeated in elections in 1976. So yeah, he just lost.
So some people did vote for him, just not successfully.
Yes.
Yeah, sort of the reverse of Trump. Some people voted for him, but successfully.
Yeah, just successfully enough. Again, it hit in the 2016. Hillary won had 3 million more votes, but she lost by 50,000 votes. Is I didn't do crimes. I'm Italian. Al Capone.
It's my culture. I could when he said that, I was like, oh my God, dude, you just took your entire culture and threw it under the bus. Like, what
Hey, it's
the
Italy. We
hell?
do a little rape, What can I say?
Yeah, that's just like a great thing.
Haven't you ever seen Greece? Tell me more. Tell me more. Did she put up a fight? That's just the way it is.
Oh. It's just but then it's like you're saying, no, I have no responsibilities for my actions. I'm part of society, as it were. It's just like, while there's some things to be said about society, yeah, no, if you do something into 11 women, you did that. Come on, guy. And if it's a part of your culture, then your culture should change. No, and it was never acceptable. It's just women didn't have the power to speak up about it, as it were.
Well, and it'd be different if all of the accusations were, well, he just was overly friendly.
Yeah.
Like that was not all the complaints. Some of those complaints were straight up, assault.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Straight up freaking assault. It wasn't no, kiss on each cheek sort of thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a bad man. He's a bad man. It's good he's gone.
I'm gonna
Let's see
have
his
to say
replacements.
though, being autistic, I actually don't mind it if society gets rid of all of those traditions that do the whole huggy kissy thing when you don't know people. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
I think it would just be better if we all walked up to each other, put up a hand and said appropriate greeting and left it at that.
Well, I kind of
Literally
like
just
that
the
new
words
thing where
appropriate
people
greeting.
like bump elbows. That one's all right.
Yeah.
Just bump elbows.
I mean, especially with COVID, bump elbows instead of like.
Okay,
using hands.
that's racist against people without elbows. Come on.
Now, granted, there are people without elbows, so it's just hi. But yeah, people are just like, instead of saying hi, they say, how are you? So when I worked at a gas station and I said, just hi to the customers walking in, someone would said, fine, how are you? As if I said, how are you instead.
Mm-hmm. Sort of like one person says, hey, what's up? The other one says, fine, how are you? Not much. Thanks for asking.
I tell the truth that was up as the ceiling, as it were. Just flip to the bird to everyone would be fine with me. Okay, David, I'll flip the bird to you. That's our way of greeting to you. Yes.
That's what we did. That was already there.
David,
Well, we tried to be a little
David.
bit nice to him because he's living in a murder house now. He's being haunted.
That's
Haunted
right.
in a murder house. What the heck?
You hadn't heard? He bought himself a new house. It's an old church, and there are definitely like 500 skeletons buried under the altar.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, if it's an old church.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's in Scandinavia, so it's the skeletons will be slightly different than you're used to. But
Hey, Tim.
Hey, Tim.
It's kind
Ew.
of your robot, Joey.
what was that?
Joey, you should say
Yeah.
exterminate because yeah. Okay, I got another topic about like terrible men and terrible work environments. Riot Games is being accused by California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, which is the same department that sues Activision and Blizzard for Activision Blizzard's terrible shit, that Riot Games failed to inform its employees or misled their employees about their rights. And this is connected. And so like this race development is all sent back to like the insensitive investigation that Kotaku did in 2018 about Riot Games like Dubro culture of development and how that
It's their culture and heritage. It's the way they were raised.
just like in Tech Bros, just like in video games, like I mentioned, Nolan Bushnell had parties where he invited the guys back to the hot tub and they invited women to the hot tub. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cultural.
So it's like so yeah, Riot Games was just like not informing like if there's like employees that like you can sue for the terrible things that we're doing to you because what we're doing to you is not illegal and we should not be doing that, but we're doing it anyway because just it's our culture, which is now the excuse for the whole like show for like any of the bad people to say it's our culture, as it were.
I'm gonna start using it for everything wrong that I ever do from now on. Like anything that pisses off anybody, I'm just gonna say it's my culture.
Yeah, this is Lakota from the old days.
Yeah, I'm
It's-
traditional.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, even many of the people in my modern culture don't remember these traditions that I just invented because fuck you.
I've never heard of that in Lakota culture. Yeah, well, you have now.
Well, probably educated in a white school.
That's the result of your people trying to de-establish my culture.
Hey,
People
use
lie
it,
about
man.
me.
Use
I'm
it,
gonna.
Joey. That
Why not?
People have been using it against indigenous folks forever. use it back.
Exactly. They've been using it against me for long enough. Might as well use it for me.
Sure. I see one thing too, just completely derail everything we're talking about.
Oh, sure.
Is David?
We have rails?
David said, no, not rails, highways. David mentions that Kraftwerk is making a comeback. And
Kraftwerk?
I'm assuming that's the band and not the German word for handicraft.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I didn't think that Kraftwerk ever went away.
No, the Germans stopped knitting. It was a whole thing after World War II.
Yeah.
We're just gonna quit now, you fuckers.
Yeah. I've that's why I don't drive on the interstate, because I've forgotten how to fire off their Autobahn.
When you're like 11 years old, which I think that's how old I was the first time that I went to Europe. When you're like 11 years old and you're driving along on the Autobahn.
The fuck you doing driving on the Autobahn at 11 years old, you fucker?
Well, it's Germany. It's Germany. They have different rules.
You can drink when you're 16 in Germany.
You're just getting used to reading this new language, and you're going along on the Autobahn, and you realize that all of the exits are called Ausfahrts.
Yes.
There is no, you're giggling almost nonstop down the Autobahn because every exit is Ausfahrt because you're 11.
Of course.
Yeah, 11-year-olds are the worst.
Or the best. I think the best.
It depends. If you like poop jokes, 11-year-olds are the best.
Oh, Tim, you say I've forgotten a lot of things. Yes. Sadly. Why do you bring the fuck? Well, by the way, welcome, Tim. Oh no.
Oh, I didn't know about that. Also, I didn't know about Kraftwerks being the thing, as it were. So glad to hear about that. But it's still.
So the Republicans have finally, or the Republican base, I should say, has finally turned on Donald Trump.
Plow?
Really?
He said that they should get vaccinated, and they booed him.
That'll something will reverse that. Either he'll change his mind, or he'll.
The fact that they booed him will make him change his mind. I never said that. You can't say I said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's not gonna stick to that. He's just gonna change his mind about that and start talking like he used to, just to keep them from booing him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Remember, the Trump is the kind of guy that he'll repeat the thing that he heard last and thinks that's a good idea and pretend it's his idea, even if that contradicted something he said earlier that day or something like that.
Yeah, he's consistency.
He thought they liked
him
him
with
and
small
were following
minds,
him.
and he doesn't have a small mind at all. He doesn't have He's barely got one at all.
Yes, but speaking of COVID-19 and vaccines, fucking Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, as it were, who refuses mask mandates, refuses vaccinations, is against all that, as it were, and got tested positive for COVID.
Yeah, and
keeps happening.
And I think he is vaccinated, and he also is getting the very best medical care that he possibly can.
Of course, he
paid for by the people.
Paid for by the people, and is aiding and abetting the virus, particularly the Delta variant, which is killing. I think as yesterday, I think the numbers were about 2,000 people had died between Friday and Saturday. If I remember my numbers, that's the largest number it's been since probably the last year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a long time ago, but it's coming back, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly, because even though even though it's a lot people getting vaccinated as were, but now because of like cases are rising up, the Delta variant, it's beating. Nope, we haven't talked about like Afghanistan yet. We can. The Delta variant is like ramping up. Yeah, now I think Washington State, my state, is going to like institute mask mandates as well. Again,
South Carolina is not.
There's no way South Dakota is.
Oh,
No
Jesus.
fucking
No,
way.
not with that fucking rally going on. You got COVID surging all over the
not,
place.
not with your governor. Christie is a little bit of an asshole.
You mean Prairie Palin?
Right.
I hate this woman.
That is racist. That is racist against white people.
Again, I'm going to keep wearing my mask at all times. That's what we're.
Yeah.
Man, I bought a bunch of cool masks too. I got like, ones that have cool like Native American designs on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, by the way, Joey, make sure to say exterminate.
And I have ones
What?
Yeah, I can't hear anything you're saying there, Joey.
Unfortunately, Joey,
little,
your robot
little skull and crossbones, like
there we go.
Jolly. Did it work?
Now you're back.
It's a little.
I tried to say exterminate.
That's okay. No. So, the philosophical wolf. No, we haven't talked about like Afghanistan yet. Well, I think everyone knows about the news. It's where it's just like, because Biden said that we're gonna pull out troops, and he did overnight. Oh,
And now the Taliban has more Apache helicopters than all but 2 governments in the world. Those Apache helicopters have giant holes in them, but yeah, sure, go nuts.
It's almost like when we funded the Taliban back in the 70s. So don't worry. Don't worry, like Americans. Don't worry. We'll go and fight the Taliban once again. Once we label the Taliban as communists, that's how we do it.
It's like I
That's
saw
the way
somebody
you do it.
I saw somebody in a comment section
Mhm.
talking about how we just left and now the Taliban got all of our stuff that we left there, and I'm like, oh, again?
Yes,
Because
again.
this is the second time we've armed the Taliban. Hello, we just got done arming them to start this whole thing with.
Yep.
Like they got rid of the Russians. We we decided that was a win for us and went into Afghanistan.
Mhm.
And like there's a reason that they have said, what is it? How many different, something like a dozen different countries have tried to have either a war inside Afghanistan or stage a war from inside Afghanistan.
Right.
And ended up just losing horrifically, just people and money, and it's a pit. And my whole point is Afghanistan's one of those countries where all these different smaller tribes come together, and you can't do anything with that. You just can't. They're tribal people there. Like they're gonna continue to be tribal people until they decide what they're going to do about how they treat each other.
Yep.
Like we have to quit with the stupid imperialistic bullshit. We're gonna go fix this and we're gonna go fix that. No, you just want to fix it because number one, you wanted to sell a whole bunch of arms.
Yep.
And hey, you succeeded at that. But number two, you wanted to protect shit like fucking opium fields and
there's a lot
all
of
of these fossil fuels that we got to get off of anyway.
There's a lot of rich materials, minerals, and rare earth minerals and metals in like Afghanistan too. So like that's like a part of the investment.
Money? What?
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
So yeah, I agree. I agree. The free council. It's not about. It was never about fixing it. It's about like control of the region as well. And so, granted, yeah, I think Trump made a deal with the Taliban in like in his presidency to like pull out eventually. And then like
he didn't. He said the other day that it's all Biden's fault and Biden should resign because Trump was always perfect about that, about Afghanistan and about staying there. And
He had the great
all-
relationship with the Taliban. He just said
yeah,
so.
all the times that he said we should pull out and leave. That, I mean, he never said that. That's a lie.
No, he was saying Obama should pull out
Yeah.
because we don't want to have
Obama's
any
dad
black
should have
children.
pulled out.
Wait, no, sorry, wrong type of pull out.
Oh shit! I was wondering when someone's going to make that joke. It had to be one of us eventually, or someone in the chat. But yeah, actually, Biden kind of like went along. Yeah, it was a bad deal that Trump set up with the Taliban, and Biden agreed to it. But Biden also was never in favor of like the surge in like Afghanistan during Obama's like years as well. So it's like Biden is just like. It's like, come on, it's going to be a shit show anyway. I just decided to pull out now, as it were, and pull out too quickly, I guess. And so now it is a horrible situation for the people in Afghanistan because the Taliban is trying to be more woke, as in no. We're gonna. I should not do an accent. That's really racist of me. No. We're gonna have like a woman here as a news anchor. See, we're hiring more women guards, but like they're learning from the Americans, I guess. But it's just like it. But people actually did want to leave and stuff like that. And right now, America is only welcoming 2,000 refugees from like Afghanistan. UK only 9,000. France, I think it's welcoming more, like 45,000. But the bulk of it's going to Pakistan right now, and so. It's hopefully the people that are able to leave Afghanistan and want to leave can do so, because it's not good, but I don't know how best to be able to, what was the best situation there, because yes, you can definitely, it's one thing you can argue that yes, we should have never been there in the first place to begin with, like in the 70s, but it's kind of like once we're there, it would cause more harm if we pull out. For the Afghans themselves, they kind of decided with the reason why they just surrendered, and the Taliban was able to take over provincial government capital over provincial capital after provincial capital, is because the Afghan soldiers and government decided that lesser two evils, just let the Taliban take over things over, or fight a bloody war with the cause of loss of deaths to casualties.
Or on the other hand, get bought out by the Taliban.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. I make an individual deal with the Taliban to give up my command, the command I am in charge of, or the group I'm in charge of, and I get to be safe and maybe make a little bit of money. And then you do that often enough, and you get what happened. All the defenses that we built up all these years against the Taliban just crumbled because we didn't understand the culture. Joey's entirely right. The culture is different than the nationalist culture that might have worked in that situation had it been a different culture, but it wasn't. That's why Afghanistan is. Oh, maybe Tim, help me with this. The graveyard of empire, I think it's what Afghanistan has been called. It just, people just, other countries try to invade and they take over for a while, and then it goes back to being what it was. Alexander the Great conquered Afghanistan, and that was as successful as anything else. But his his generals that later took over their government there, over time they lost it too. And then you got these various other empires that try to invade and take over. And this is the pattern. This is what always happens. And for us to think that it was going to be different this time because we're America, and because America is always, we know what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing. We don't understand other people. We don't understand the people in our country that are different culturally than us.
Yeah, no kidding.
I was hoping that you would back me up on that, because I thought you might be thinking that.
Yeah, I'm absolutely thinking that, because I mean, when you look at the United States from the outside, if you are a person who's seen nothing but Hollywood and media, it portrays the United States as basically this vastly, mostly white, but this big mixture of people, as if we've all mixed together. It's not a mixture of people. If you've ever driven through, let's just say, Los Angeles,
We're lumpy like spoiled
Like-
milk.
exactly, it is lumpy. You go through these sections of Los Angeles where you're not going to find anybody who speaks anything but Hindi in this section. You're not going to find anybody who speaks anything but Mexican in this section. You're not going to find anybody who speaks anything but Arabian in this section. Like, we make these tiny little cliquish sections of large cities so that when people immigrate, when people try to find their own people, in air quotes, they tend to try to find the people who look like them, talk like them, act like them, have the same culture as they do. They're not looking to mix. It takes 1 or 2 generations before then you start seeing young people who will start to mix. And usually it's because love does not give a shit about culture. It just doesn't. Like, love happens cross-culturally all the time, and it always has. Like, that's just it's a human thing. Culture doesn't stop us from finding love. And so that second generation, that's when you start seeing mixtures. So we've got, for the first time, the United States Census, for the first time in since they started doing censuses, has, for the very first time, the most human beings in the United States are of mixed race.
Yep.
Like, wait, are you gonna start treating us like we treated you? That's bad. You can't do that.
Oh no, girl! Oh
That's
no!
like,
What?
that's a
People
huge
gonna be a
thing,
minority?
and I think that's like, that for me is like actually fucking phenomenal, because all of those mixed race people, like me, I'm mixed race too. You know, like, all of us are the product of all of these cultures getting together, and instead of clashing, they got married and had little kids. Like, I mean, cultures don't have to clash.
Nope.
But American
often don't.
culture, when we think of American culture, we tend to think of this great big amorphous thing that is just kind of swallowing up everybody, when that's not actually what's happening within the United States. These are kids like myself who have culture. Like, they usually have the culture of the minority parent, first off. But second off, they combine cultures. They're not getting rid of it. They're combining it. And that's more American to me than this whole idea of like hot dogs and apple pie and, you know, this fantasy of white people who are, you know, open arms greeting and welcoming these immigrants, because that is not what white people have done since they were the immigrants. Like, that has not been what's happened. If the immigrants are not white, they do not welcome immigrants in this country. And so when we're dealing with something like Afghanistan, we should be opening our arms to all the people who are, you know, going to be running from there. But instead, we're not going to. We're absolutely not going to. And all the pressure that we put on Joe Biden isn't going to make him move on this.
No.
It's not going to make him move on this. Like, not at all. He's not going to start, you know, bringing in more refugees.
No.
Just because we put some pressure on him.
I mean, Kamala Harris, like what, a week ago or like a few weeks ago, told to Guatemala's refugees, don't come. Oh yeah, we did terrible things to your country in like the 50s and the 80s.
No. Terrible things happened to your country. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Let's not get into blame. This is a long time ago. We need to move on. This is painful for us too. You have to understand.
Painful for the Biden administration to deport people too. Like,
Look at what you made me do.
it's like 2,000 Haitians since his administration has been in power, and Haiti has the political earthquake that happened like a couple of months ago for the president being assassinated. And yeah, that was the president that America's U.S. backed, as it were, and like that whole deal is like still ongoing because like the Haitians are wondering like who's going to be our leader right now. And then another earthquake as a 7.4 or something like that hit Haiti, unfortunately, when Haiti itself did not recover from the 2010 earthquake that they had, which was also a 7-point magnitude earthquake. And it's like, no, those things are not fun, as it were. So, our president, Joe Biden, in the 90s, just said that Haiti is not in America's interest. If Haiti just sank into the Caribbean, we would be fine, as it were. So, our president, lesser two evils, but yeah, it's just like, so do we have?
Yeah, but the lesser of evils is still evil.
I agree. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. On the other hand, you can't. You're never going to have something that doesn't have evil in it, except for anarchism and cats and dogs.
What good did we get? Well, we got some good stuff.
Yeah, there's no evil in a kitten.
As
well,
compared to what we would have with Trump,
maybe a tiny bit of evil in a kitten. But puppies definitely have no evil.
Puppies, yeah.
That's because they expel all their evil onto the carpet.
Yeah. Kitties have evil, but they're special. They're
special. They're the tiny bit of evil that we're all allowed to have to like keep our lives balanced. You can't like get rid of all evil or something like that. How are you going to bring balance to the Force if you just have nothing but Jedis?
You can't get rid of all evil. You have to keep cats.
Yeah, unless you're two weasels, as David tells us.
Unless they're two weevils. Yes.
And yes, we do have fishy fashy.
Yes.
So this week's theme is atheists.
Oh.
Some of the popular voices of the new atheism movement.
Mm-hmm.
First up, Small David Smalley, of Dogma Debate with David Smalley.
Okay.
He says that medical insurance is slow and expensive, so you should just quit insurance and pay out of pocket. Next up, we have Richard Dawkins. Islam in power is worse than Christianity.
Okay,
and
Dawkins.
Also, it's misogynistic.
Dawkins is the right one.
What kind of Christianity is he talking about?
No shit.
And finally, we have Lawrence Krauss advocating white supremacy. Quietly.
Oh my God.
So, is David Smalley saying quit your insurance and pay out of pocket? Is Richard Dawkins saying Islam is worse than Christianity and also misogynistic? Or is Lawrence Krauss being white supremacist?
Oh.
Yes.
Tom,
Well, yes.
which one do you think is the fake?
That's my answer. I don't even have to roll the fucking dice for this one. This is yes across the board. This is the one. This is the one. You're fooling us this time by making them all true.
That would be a power play, though.
Yeah, there's
No, that would be cheating.
Well,
which is a power play in some people's eyes.
You cheat, so
I'm not
I
a
don't think-
Republican. That I resent that.
So, this is disingenuous of you on so many levels. Okay, all right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He didn't say which one he thought was the fake.
No, I did. I think they're all true.
Oh, no. Then one of them is fake.
Okay, all right.
I'm not going to let you lose like that. You're going to have to lose trying. Go down swinging, Tom.
Okay, I'm going to say God. This is hard because they're all total fucking assholes. But my die says Krauss.
Okay.
Is the one who's not who didn't say exactly that horrible thing.
All right. Jonathan.
Richard Dawkins. Even though it's totally true, it might be a slightly different or something else as it were. So I'm going to go with Richard Dawkins. It's too true to be true.
All right. And Yoey.
I am going to go with number one because I don't think even David Smalley is that ignorant to say some shit like that.
Okay. Well,
You
in
still
that
believe,
case,
see, you still have faith in people to a certain extent, in spite of what you've seen, Joey. I this is what I love about you. You're so innocent.
all right, so let's just go ahead and take them in order. First up, Small David, medical insurance, $500 a month. First off, what the fuck kind of medical insurance does he have? Need tests or appointments? Wait 9 weeks. Need mental health? No therapist available. A social worker will call in a week. At some point, it's better to cancel, save the $500, and pay out of pocket for direct services as needed.
Oh my God, what a dumbass.
Well, somebody did follow up saying, would you rather have a small percentage of your tax go toward a free functioning healthcare system still with direct private services available? He said yes. So he is speaking from a place of stupid privilege, but he's not a Republican on that issue.
He's still what was the thing?
He's still a douche canoe.
Oh yeah.
He got together with Adam Carolla and congratulated himself on not being racist.
Oh yeah. It's David Smalley that was also at MidCon that like Chris Yossi did like interview after MidCon 5, and David Smalley was complaining about like, what about white men's feelings of like this Black Lives Matter movement? And the Black Lives Matter protesters are blocking the roads for an ambulance. It's like, oh God, David Smalley. And I was in that chat as well as you, John Breckman, where David Smalley said, like, see, this is why the far left is just as bad as the far right. I was like, fuck you, David Smalley.
Quick question. Since North Carolina and Texas and all those other Republicans are passing laws saying it's okay to run over protesters, does that mean we can run over protesters at abortion clinics?
No.
Food for thought.
No, it's not, because we have examples. We have already precedent from, I think, Florida that the laws of
Florida.
Well, it's Florida or Texas. I can't remember which, and I'm thinking it's Florida that I'm thinking about right now. They have a law against about protesting that really restricts protesting a lot, and they did not. Well, I mean, a lot of states do that, but I think that what I'm thinking about is the Florida law, where it was not applied for MAGA for a MAGA demonstration that would have, had it been BLM or Antifa, would have been completely crushed. It was not addressed because they're.
But remember, this is specifically the law allowing you to run people over with your car. So I'm wondering if they were smart enough to build in exceptions to that. Anyway.
I think the pro-life protesters are on the sidewalk, so that's why. If
but the thing is, they often block the entrances to parking lots.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, but anyway,
So next up, we have Dickie Dawkins. In earlier times, some branches of Christianity showed what can happen when religious faith captures political power. The Taliban today provide an even worse example of the same thing, with the added ingredient of a vicious and extraordinary hatred of women.
What?
So he literally...
He says that the Taliban is worse than Christianity, and it has misogyny.
He man-washed everything Christianity has done to women.
He man-washed, he whitewashed, he Europe-washed, Christian-washed. He did all the washing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did some bad things. You're worse, and also you hate women. We don't.
Yeah. You made a mistake, however, when you called his singular use of the Taliban sick, or plural use of the Taliban sick, because in English, British English, things collective nouns are given the collective pronoun or collective adjective or whatever the part is.
But the Taliban is an organization. So if the Congress does a thing, or you could say the Congress did a thing, I suppose. But I'm going to go
Congress
ahead and
do
assume
it
that
thing.
Dawkins made a mistake because I don't like him.
Oh, I'm with you there. It's just as an
Which
English
means
major,
that
I
Lawrence
have
Krauss
to say
did not advocate white supremacy. He did,
in
however,
that
publish an article in a white supremacist magazine, Quillette. Exciting news about ancient Babylon and what we should value about their ancient cultures. Their inventions, not so much their myths. Published on Quillette.com. So Quillette is a new phrenology rag that is all about pushing, positive eugenics and white supremacy and things like that in a very low-key kind of way.
Yeah,
And for some reason, liberals and other not quite white supremacists keep publishing on there. Alongside open white supremacists.
Like Andy and Go published on Quillette.
And Stephen Saylor and others like that.
I don't know Stephen Saylor. Wow.
Steve Saylor is a Republican eugenicist, small brain measury IQ type, I think.
Oh, phrenology type. What's with
And,
I
he
hate that. Like those guys are like a pet peeve for me because 99.8% of the time, literally, I am more intelligent than they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it just pisses me off so much to have guys like that so convinced, so absolutely convinced of their mental superiority when it's not true.
Mm-hmm. Steve Saylor is an American paleoconservative, journalist, movie critic, blogger, and columnist. Former correspondent for UPI and a columnist for Taki Magazine and VDare. VDare. Website associated with white supremacy, and the alt-right.
Virginia Dare, the first white child born in the U.S. of A. by two, I think, English-speaking people.
He has a history of making racist statements and writes about race relations, gender issues, politics, immigration, IQ, genetics, movies, and sports. He's been credited with coining the pseudoscientific race theory known as human biodiversity. And one of his books got an endorsement from Steven Pinker. Cool. And people still argue with me that Steve Pinker is not conservative.
Oh, bullshit.
Don't argue with those people.
So anyway, whoever guessed that Lawrence Krauss was the one that was fake, you win. I think Joan P.
Tom McDonald's well.
Yep, John McDonald's definitely won. You get to sing the butt song. I was wondering who in the audience might have.
My die one. Okay.
But I told you that one of them was fake.
In your butt. I'm in your butt. I'm a little die in your butt.
So the die was like singing. This is the first time that we heard the die sing.
Yeah, well, that's it's through my mouth. So I mean, you wouldn't understand it. So the vibrations would be different coming through the voice box of a die, but I sort of ventriloquist dummied it here. I'm absolutely. I hit the wall about 10 minutes ago for some reason. Yes, and okay. The soundtrack to my fuck you leaving time. Okay, I am so fucking old. I am so fucking old. It's horrible. I think Tim made a mention about that. So probably right. So anyway, fuck you. See you later.
Thanks for stopping by, Tom.
Thanks for stopping by, Tom.
Bye, Tom.
Bye. So
there's a guy named Stephen Saylor who writes gay murder mysteries set in ancient Rome. Interesting. Well, he's a gay novelist. He writes murder mysteries set in ancient Rome. I'm going to assume that they're gay murder mysteries.
Right, because a gay novelist writer, so they're gay.
Only ever writes gay stuff.
Yes, only gay people can write gay stuff.
Well, that's probably why it's set in the place where it's set, so there'll be plenty of gayness.
Yes.
Well, ancient Rome had weird attitudes about that. It was only gay if you were receiving.
Okay.
Which is actually kind of the modern Republican view of it.
Yes, it is. Because, like, like over a decade ago, like almost a decade and a half ago, like a senator from Iowa at the Minnesota airport bathroom with the wide stance, and Tabby, and it's like he even like said it's like I don't go around hitting them on men, and by God, if I did, I wouldn't do it in Boise, Idaho. It's like, wow, way to shame your own your own contingency, your own voter base. You shame your own voter base.
No, he was saying that there are no gay people in Idaho. But gay people would totally fuck a boy from Idaho. I mean, let me tell you, they love themselves some corn-fed white boys.
Nobody hot in Idaho, I guess.
I guess so. But it is kind of interesting that, like, from what I've heard, is that like the CDC in the AIDS crisis did had to just make a separate category of like AIDS patients of men who have sex with men, because despite being AIDS patients and saying that they had sex with men, they never
weren't
admit
gay.
that they were gay. They weren't gay.
And honestly, men who have sex with men is a better classification for it anyway, because it's not like you're one or t'other.
Yeah, you don't even have to. It's like I was having this discussion with somebody the other day because they were trying to say that, making a point that they were trying to say that you're either bi or pan if you have experimented. And I was trying to explain to them that that is not how this works.
Mm-hmm.
That is not at all how this works. Experimenting is literally just experimenting. It doesn't make you gay. It doesn't make you bi. It doesn't make you pan. That is something that you come to your own conclusion about after you've done your experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but experimenting itself doesn't mean that you're gay. It doesn't make you bi. It doesn't make you pan just because you're experimenting. And so all of those kids who are experimenting in college, because that's usually where the experimentations start, are just experimenting. That's it. That doesn't make them anything. They can decide what their labels are.
You heard it here today. If you experiment, you are nothing to Joey.
Unless you say I'm bi, I am pan, or I'm polysexual. Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's like if someone says that they're bisexual and they're attracted to this, and they're attracted to a whole bunch of things, yeah, they're bisexual then. Same thing, right. Pansexual, or same thing. And sometimes people don't even know what they're attracted to. They just know that, like, and well, one thing, they can be asexual as well. But another thing is just like they just know that they like or are attracted to like trans masked people or non-binary people and men exclusively, and so that's the category that they're attracted to as were, and they don't know what label is to apply to that, which is why totally fair to just say queer, just queer.
Yep.
Not straight, not cis. That's
what I use, just because it's easier than the long explanation of all the details, because it's just sometimes it's easier that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But it's even
speaking of easy, killing rich people. There's no segue there. I just wanted to say
it. Hey, you were the one that brought up Starfleet Revelation 46A earlier in the stream. Because yes, I happen to think, wait a minute, is Glenn Beck alive? Yes, Glenn Beck is alive. So unfortunately, Glenn Beck doesn't have a bathroom that we can use as like a gender neutral bathroom.
He does, however, have a car.
Again, Starfleet Revelation 46A. You know, John Brockman just said, like,
I actually don't know if he has a car. I mean, he might have a service.
He might have yacht. Let's just see. That's one. I remember even my stepsister said this, as it were, or because like people would call, and they used to, when Love Line was a thing, they would call in the Love Line. It's like, my boyfriend wants me to like take a strap on and like to put it into his butt. Is he gay because of that? No, he just likes to receive, as it were, and it's called pegging. But that doesn't make him gay. Him being attracted to men, that's what makes him gay. Him saying, I'm gay, that's what makes him gay. So, yeah.
Right. I think, though, that it's one of the things that I've noticed about, like, more modern the last like 10 years or so, versus when I was a kid. The discussion has shifted so much, and it has opened up so much, and it has allowed for so many people to come forward and be really, really open and honest about who they are as human beings. Like, just the shift from when I was a kid and how open people were about talking about their sexuality and being different than just, homo or hetero. Just that big shift, because when I was a kid, it was already okay to be gay.
Yeah.
At least it was in Southern California. I'm not saying that's the way it was.
I was about to say, I mean,
but in Southern California, when I was a kid, it was already okay to be gay. But what you didn't hear or see a lot of was people saying, I'm bi, I'm pan, I'm asexual. I didn't meet my first asexual until I was already an adult.
knowing.
Like, I mean, the people didn't talk about it. They just, and for a lot of people, there weren't labels because there wasn't any talking about it. So I didn't even realize that I was gray sexual until I was a fully grown middle-aged adult. And that's only because a nibbling of mine gave me links that had like huge glossaries of terms that I then started learning. But I didn't know. I just knew I was different. And I just left it to that and didn't really think about it too much because it didn't have much effect on my life. Wasn't until I was older that I found my labels, and I didn't know those labels were there. Like, I didn't know what to say. Like, I had never read the description of what it means to be a gray sexual. So I had never looked at that definition and gone,
It means you only have sex with the tiny aliens with the big heads, right?
Yeah, that's gray sexual.
Or with people with gray hair.
I bet you anything. No, that's
silver.
Gerontophilia.
Like yourself a silver fox.
Oh,
that's gerontophilia.
Yeah, I knew there was a word for it. I figured that. Yeah, of course there would be a word.
Well,
There's
I
always
guess
a word
technically, technically, mesophilia is also the same. Similar.
No, that's cancer. Mesothelioma.
Mesophilia is middle-aged people.
Meso horny.
So Joe asked, I haven't heard of like gray sexuality, and how is that like different from like a ace?
Basically, you have to be or is that Demi?
Okay, so I do my older.
Don't
my
ask
oldest,
me. I'm a cishet white guy.
Yeah, my older sibling is demisexual, and for them, how they describe it is like they do have sexual attractions to people, but it has to be a person they already have a deep a friendship with, as it were, so a deep romantic attraction with as well. So
and gray is like, just weak or lesser.
Gray
sexual drive.
No. Well, not about sex drive at all. Asexuality is not about like sex drive, because like there's horny.
Sorry, sexual attraction.
Sexual attraction. Yeah. From what I understand, Grace is kind of like there are some people I'm attracted to.
You only have sex with Kira Sedgwick's character from that TV show.
For me, what it means, when I describe it to people, I tell them that I'm closer to the A than the gray. For me, all it means is that I'm just not attracted to anybody, except for once in a while I am. And that once in a while happens, like when I say once in a while, it was like I've been attracted to like 5 people in my life. Like that's why I say I'm closer to the A, because it's only ever been 5 people that I've been attracted to. Now, that was for me in my sexuality. My sexuality is dependent on my romanticism. My romanticism, I am demi-romantic. So I have to know somebody before I can have romantic feelings. I won't have sexual attraction to anybody until after I have romantic feelings. The romantic feelings have to come first. And to have romantic feelings, I have to know somebody. And so like that whole thing, I think I've only ever been attracted to a human being where I've just looked at them and went, wow, that is a stunning human being. I would totally do that. Like maybe 2-3 times in my life. where I didn't know them
And
at
those
all.
were all Hugh Jackman.
He's a good looking man, yeah.
And see, that was actually one of the ways that I knew that I was different, is when, you know, you hit that puberty stage. When you first hit puberty, like, that's when everybody's attractive. If you're going to be like, if you're pansexual, everybody's attractive. You know, like when you first hit your
Except
hormones,
Donald Trump.
yeah, pretty much. But when you first hit your hormones, like, they go just bonkers, right?
Mhm.
Mine didn't.
Mm.
Like, I didn't have any, you know, I didn't have any major teenage crushes. I didn't have posters up on my wall of people that I found attractive. Like, it wasn't like that for me. And I noticed that there was a huge difference between me and like every other kid. And for a long time, I thought that there was something wrong with me. And then I just decided, well, if it's wrong, I don't want to be right, because it certainly seems, looking from the outside in, that love messes up a lot of people a lot of the time. So,
Because
me
the
not
purpose
getting-
of love is to make more people, and people are the worst.
well, and then you've got, like, for me, I notice how many people they'll do the dumbest shit. They will say the dumbest shit because the person they're talking to or about is attractive. They find them attractive, and suddenly they can't think straight. They can't, you know, they can't even differentiate. They can't be objective in any possible way about this person just because they have a whatever it is that attracts people. Nice butt, boobs, whatever it is on somebody that attracts people. All of a sudden, human beings can't think. And that doesn't happen to me. And I am perfectly okay with that. Because watching what happens to other people, I am glad that that doesn't happen to me. Like, just because somebody is, you know, good looking. Like, I always use, lately I use Jason Momoa a lot, because everybody, you know, that's the one I see most people posting up about. Jason Momoa this and Jason Momoa that. And he seems like a very nice person. He does. Like,
Until you learn about his treatment of people on set.
oh, is he not a nice person on the set?
He was upset that Amber Heard wasn't paying enough attention to him, so he tore pages out of the book she was reading.
Well, that's pretty much juvenile.
Yes.
That's a meanie head.
Yes.
But I mean, like, when you think of attractive people that a lot of people find attractive, you think of somebody like Jason Momoa. When I look at somebody like Jason Momoa, I kind of feel nothing. Like, is he a nice person? That's what I feel. Is he a nice person though? Like, because that's always been my important thing. Is that a nice person though? And so the few times that I have been attracted to people, what then ends up happening is I find out they're actually an ass, and then the attraction turns off immediately.
It's like Jason Momoa.
Yeah, that actually happens a lot to me too, honestly. But like, I think for me, I can definitely say to myself, this woman is hot, this femme person is hot. But for me, also, I said to myself, dude, it was actually someone, a friend on Facebook, actually. But like, I'm attracted to this person, as it were, and they say in a separate conversation unrelated that like, oh, by the way, I'm not a woman, as it were, and I was like, I'm so attracted to this person. There's got to be a word for that. And so I find polysexual, because like, I know that I'm attracted to non-binary people. So there's got to be like something where it's like, I'm attracted to more than one gender, but yet not all genders. Cause like, I don't know. I can say that like guys are hot, but I don't know if there are guys or like masked people that I say or I'm attracted to, as it were. But non-binary people and femme people and women, yes, I can definitely say I find some attractive people, as it were. So polysexual is the label I have, as it were. Another way is, again, of course, just like queer. So it's kind of like nice to like have that kind of like a label out there, but it's just like.
I think I kind of like the idea. I saying this to somebody the other day. If you like me, you're not straight. Because just the whole idea of, somebody finding me attractive, on the other hand, is like, haha, you're not straight. Ha ha.
Yep, a lot of my MB pals have said, if you're attracted to me, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're not straight because I'm
Nanny,
non-binary.
nanny, do, dad, stick your head on gonads.
So yeah. What else has happened this week or this past couple of days? What have you, either of you been up to? John, I know you said at the beginning of the show that you're adjusting your
Resetting my schedule, which means I've been struggling to stay awake during the day and often failing. Also been playing Octopath Traveler on the Switch.
Oh, how's that game? I've heard good things about the
Bog
game.
standard JRPG. It's fun enough. Nothing really revolutionary about it.
I think what I've seen of other streamers like that play this is kind of like how it's like each of the 8 different characters have their own storylines, as it were, and also how each different of the characters. Well, yes, they can switch classes, as it were, but yet each of those 8 characters still have their unique abilities, unlike an overworld and a town or world and stuff like that. But apart from those sort of things, I mean, standard JRPG. But you know what? I love that part of it as well. I was streaming yesterday Final Fantasy 4, the 3D remake that was one on the DS, and I still love those game mechanics as well. Even though it's just you attack here, you cast a spell here, you cast a spell here. I watch the action happens, and. But no, I kind of so if I want to do play Octopath Traveler, I do. We do have it as a Switch, but I don't have I haven't set it up to be able to stream from my Switch to Twitch. It's not that hard. I just had to get a capture card and a couple of cables, but all of the work of doing that and set it up. And plus, also the Switch is my brother's, and so I share it with them as it were. So maybe they won't mind as it were, but yeah, I haven't gotten around to that. But yeah, so I want to dive into Octopath Traveler when I get the chance. So Joey, what have you been up to? Joey,
I think
accidentally
you
muted. I've got one of those. You know how you get the earphones that have the little microphone mute switch on.
Yes.
The line.
Yes.
Well, mine sits at a weird position so that it accidentally switches off every once in a while if I move just right.
Yeah. I do have I had one of those a while ago, and because I always buy I one time to buy a half dozen pairs of those cheap earbuds for $20. Oh yeah, I would through those ones quite a bit. It was frustrating as well. But sometimes this one actually has it, but the button broke, which is why I'm using it from on my desktop as well. But yeah, when I occasionally have it, because of where it sits on my face as well, and I'm doing work, I'll sometimes have to kneel down as well, or to bring my chin close to myself as well, and I'll accidentally mute my podcast when I wasn't intending to, and then it's okay, where is it? Where's the okay, there we go. The podcast is playing it again. So I can definitely see how you can accidentally mute yourself and just moving it just right. And
gotta mute yourself before you boot yourself.
Let's see.
I have had pretty much jack shit going on. I'm just enjoying the.
You live in the Dakotas.
Quiet.
What could there be?
I know, right? It's so freaking slow out here. We're out.
I found a rock and it sort of sat there, and I thought that was cool.
Right.
Oh, I also found a stick.
The other day I
saw
a
dog
bird.
if you hold it right.
I mean, some people do enjoy. Some people do enjoy nature watch. Actually, I started following 24/7 a Wolves Conservation Center Twitch channel. So just 4 different webcams about different wolves, just being wolves. Most of them sleeping, some of them just hanging out as it were. So yeah, this kind of nature channels are a thing. So nature watching is totally legitimate.
Did you say something about wolves, Tabby? What? Wolves? What?
It wasn't Tavi, but I think it was like Groundhog 2010, Tavi's friend, our mutual friend at like informant. But I think also Tavi shared the like some of the tweets from like the Wolf Conservation Center on Twitter as well. So yes, of course. And Mitchell, I do have Grimdark as well. Played a little bit about it, and it's like yes. So Grimdark is just like Diablo, but it's not by a company that has sexual assault cases that we know of so far. Joe, you have like so much work, but I got to Ren Fair coming up. Oh, on fake Labor Day weekend. Yes. John Brockman mentioned your name, Tavi, because I'm brought up Wolf Conservation Center since like Joey has like nothing that has.
He was watching a stream that had wolves on it, and they were sleeping.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I assume that every wolf is somehow Tavi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I eventually it was Groundhog 2010 page that like I mentioned it to like me in the voice call, and yeah, I'm sure that like she mentioned it to you. Okay. So what's going on with me? Oh, you know what? I've been playing a lot of the game called Golf with Your Friends. It is
you just got so white.
Yes. So white, yes. Hey, funny enough, in Golf with Your
I have a 9 o'clock tea time with Bradley and Charleston.
But no, Golf with Your Friends is like fun if you have like your friends to play with it like that. Yes, and of course, like Joe, real Labor Day is in May, and the Labor Day in like September is a fake one. Exactly. But Go For Your Friends is a lot of fun. It's from like, published by T17, which is the same publisher as Worms, which is why they have a map called Worms, which is including and the Holy Hand created Antioch. Oh, being blown up by the Holy Hand, like you see your golf ball go flying. But speaking of how very white it is, there's also the hockey mode. Yes, it's the same courses.
You just made yourself a mayonnaise sandwich on white bread, son.
Exactly. Holy crap, that's the whitest I've ever heard.
Yes, golf hockey, where it's like the balls are pucks, and instead of a holes, it's a goal with the goalies, as it were. There is a basketball mode in Golf with Your Friends as well. So, okay.
They can't dunk, but they've got good fundamentals.
Yes, exactly. It is golf. So yeah, but no, I'm having a lot of friends with like Golf for Your Friends, especially when like you can actually also customize it. So it's like you got different shapes to work with sometimes, or you can even customize it where the shapes are random. And boy, playing like golf with acorns or golf with ornaments or cubes or stars or what was the worst one, or meatballs
penises
or something like that. No, this is family friendly. No penises as well. I guess the meatballs would be like similar to testes. That's the closest thing you got in this game. But what's else kind of fun is that like my friends and I discovered custom maps. Like there's the Steam workshop sort of thing on Steam with like Golf for Your Friends. I'm sure there's other ways to find these like custom maps as it were. Some of them are not as fun, but some of them are quite challenging, and some of them are quite fun. And there's a level editor with like Golf for Your Friends. So there you go.
Playing golf with penises could be fun if they had like realistic flop mechanics.
Yeah, that'd be quite interesting.
Or if you got to actually hold the penis and use that
to golf with,
like actually golf with. So like, you know, because a lot of them bend.
Mm-hmm.
You could technically.
Okay.
That would be more hockey, I think.
I can still see you golfing with like giant dildos, though. I mean, they have like a big dildo.
Yeah, the dildo becomes the head of the club. Yeah.
Yeah, the club. Yeah, exactly.
the balls. Yeah.
Yeah. The balls.
Hold it by the tip. Swing. Cocky and no, don't have a thing for golf.
Yeah, don't have a thing. Oh, you finally got it like a PlayStation 5. How was that? Okay. I'm not gonna get any of the modern consoles until like a year or so to later. One thing, once they work out of the bugs, because Sony has this problem, then so does Microsoft. I'm not sure if Microsoft's going to make a new console. Honestly, the Xbox One is a bit tossed. They just really didn't support it, and there's not much of exclusives on there. Sony at least has like their own exclusives as were. And I agree, yes, Rundra P. Golf is a rich person's sport, exactly. But hey, with golf for your friends and mini golf, they use a lot less water. And with golf for your friends, doesn't take up as much land too. So yeah,
It's weird. Golf is the quintessential rich person thing. Mini golf is for poor people.
yes,
It is so low
right.
class to go mini golfing.
but it's so fun.
It's almost as low class as going bowling.
Mm-hmm.
I actually
I
enjoy
think bowling
though.
actually. I do. I used to like bowling back when my back could take it, when I could bowl. And I used to especially love bowling with my brother, because my brother is well, he's a big guy, but he always steps over the line and he hits that wax and he falls almost every time he goes bowling, at least once, like right on his ass, just boom, both feet out from underneath him, ends up on his ass almost every single time, and the ball goes flying somewhere. And it's entertaining. And so that
You
is
got a
one of my
strike.
favorite
It
things
wasn't in
about
your
bowling.
lane, but you got a strike.
That's very possible. Yeah.
He's a good bowler, though. That's the funny thing. He's actually a really good bowler. It's just that every single time he goes bowling, he's going to fall at least once. He just does.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that he'll get old enough someday that it's not going to be funny as much as it's going to be like concerning, but we're still young enough. I can crack up laughing at him every time. It's my brother.
I mean, he's not heavy. He's your brother. I mean, yeah, it's just like.
Well, he's big. He's big, like big. He's not big, like fat big. He's actually lost a lot of weight. But he like pumps iron and stuff. But he's still big enough that it's a noticeable crash when the guy land. I mean, he's a big guy. He's also 6'4", so.
The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Yep, and the farther they slide along those super wax lanes.
Okay,
So is he like sprinting up to the line?
I don't know what the fuck he does, dude. It is just every single time he goes over that line, one foot goes, the other foot goes, and he's down every single time.
Okay, I'm going to get it this time. I'm going to get it this time, and launches himself down the lane and into the ball, the pins.
He's like that cartoon where your thumb gets stuck in the ball in the cartoon, and you get
And
like
you keep
drug
on
all the
going,
way
and you
down
follow
the
it
lane.
all the way down. Yeah.
So yeah.
We've gotten to the point where we're just making fun of Joey's brother. I think maybe we should call it.
Yeah, we covered you also been reading Bullshit Jobs, a theory by David Graeber, but
yes.
I
haven't finished it, but there's a lot of stuff going on in there. It's really interesting. Most jobs are bullshit, and people talk about, no, capitalism couldn't possibly do that. That's the biggest part of the pushback he gets from it is, no, there can't be bullshit jobs because capitalism wouldn't allow that. Therefore, there aren't bullshit jobs.
Even Orthodox Marxists actually argued against David Graeber on that as well, because no, Marx, no, there's a job that exists, it must benefit the capitalist cause somehow. It shows like that.
Well, it doesn't necessarily benefit in terms of profit. It benefits them in terms of ego, is a big part of it.
Which is why David Graeber called it managerial feudalism, as it were. I mean, there was one of the people who said at Bullshit Jobs that they were at a big major video game publisher in Southern California, and they were associate producer. And hello, Phoenix, hello, welcome on, man. Is associate producer but not given much work to do. When they were going to like write up the like setup forms or like the documents, that's the word, something like that. So when finally there was like a project that he can work on, like be able to like write up the like work instructions or documents for like the music sets and stuff like that, unbeknownst to the producer above him who hired him, no, the music department already write up all those documents. And so in order for like that producer who hired his associate producer to save face,
he had to take the knee. Yeah.
Yes, he had to fell on the sword, essentially, like that, which is like I was saying. And yeah, and like, fuck this is a bullshit job. This job doesn't need to be here. And so yeah, and that's a common thing, as it were. So it's either kind of like I'm just hired because like the manager needs to have like lackeys and underlings because look at my army, something like that. I'm such an important position at the company that I have all these people, as it were, under me. And other times it's just like, okay, no. He's sometimes there was like one guy who was like a middle manager who was good at his job, but then got hired to be middle manager and manages people that doesn't need to be managed. They know what they're doing. And so it's like a babysitting job, which some people have complained that their middle management jobs are just babysitting jobs. But like when he's like, I don't need to manage them. They know what they're doing. So he tried to like allocate work for himself to do, actually, because he's bored.
And people yelled at him.
And the higher ups is just like, no, you can't do that. So yeah, it's
so there's the flunky who basically is there to make the person above them look important. They're just there to say, look how many assistants I have. That's how important I am. And there's goons. Goons aren't necessarily violent. Sometimes they are. But goons are, people who push a product that doesn't need to be pushed.
Exactly.
So like telemarketers and ad people. Let's see. Then you have duct tapers. They're there because the system is inefficient. And rather than correct the inefficiency, they just hire someone to do a task that could be automated or gotten rid of.
It's like how David Graeber describes it. It's just like this roof in the ceiling. Instead of like fixing that roof in the ceiling because no, it's that person's responsibility. No, it's that person's responsibility. No, it's that person's responsibility. No, we have to like feel.
They hire someone to empty the bucket.
Yes, exactly. That's the duct taper. And then there's taskmaster. A taskmaster is just like a middle management position that has to just like create all these like TPS reports. Have you filled out your TPS report?
They're there to make sure that somebody is doing a job, even though you don't need somebody to make sure the person does their job. And then there's the box ticker. They're the ones who make up the TPS reports. They go through and they say, okay, you're doing the thing, you're doing the thing, you're doing the thing, and they file a report that nobody ever reads.
Yeah, exactly. Where hench people fit into that, lackeys or goons, that's the word. That's like it's kind of like the things. Again, the goons are the ones that like selling a product that doesn't need to be sold or exists, as it were. And then the lackeys, it's kind of like also there was like a woman who worked at a Dutch publishing house, a small indie publishing house, and they hired her as a secretary and 1-2 phone calls per day, and maybe one person shows up at all, and that's it, and nothing else for her to do. But they had to hire.
They have to have a receptionist because it would be beneath other people to not have a receptionist to answer the phones like a receptionist would do. But also to show that you are a serious business, you have to have a receptionist.
And then so they kind of like they tried to give her tasks as were it's like make sure that jar at the front of the desk is filled with mints that's provided to her by someone else.
And somebody else came down and just dumped a whole bunch of paper clips on the desk and said sort these by color.
And then she did sort them by color, and then like she found out that person like asked her to sort these paper clips by color, just like use the paper clips randomly, as it were, and it didn't matter what that they were sorted by color. So that's the definition of a bullshit job. It's different than shit jobs because there are
a shit job is a job that usually needs to be done. We just don't respect the person doing it. Janitorial work, nurses. Garbage men. Basically the people who, if they went on strike, you would notice within 24 hours.
Oh, yeah. The New York, the garbage men in New York in the 70s, they brought the city of New York to its knees by like in 1 week
bus
with a strike.
There's still stories about the big garbage men strike in New York City. Like, good Lord, the amount of garbage that started piling up and the smell of the city.
Mhm.
Whereas in Ireland, the bankers went on strike and nobody noticed.
For 6 months. No, 6 months. For 6 months, the bankers in Ireland went on strike. Nobody noticed because, like, people are just like, well, let's just exchange these checks, as it were, and we'll still work on each other, as it were. And, like, that's just it. It's another example of, like, kind of like bureaucratic, like, jobs, because and even the private sector, there are bureaucratic jobs. I think that, like, the start of the book was a great example of, like, they have to move like computers. So the government, the Germany military had to just move the computers from like this location to this location.
So
And
this
it's
person has to send the request up the ladder. They send it over to a contractor, who sends it to a subcontractor, sends it to a subcontractor, sends it to a subcontractor, who drives hours out to the base, fills out a couple of forms, moves the computer down the hall, fills out a couple more forms, and leaves. Sends the forms back up through the contractor, who sends it back over to say the job has been done.
Exactly. And is that and because of the privatization, as it were, thank you, neoliberalism of the military, as it were, for all of those like contracting buddies of the public.
But notice that most of the bureaucracy there was created by the private industry, not by the government.
Exactly. Hey,
and Graver spends a lot of time talking about academia, or university and so on. Obviously, he's in academia himself, so he's familiar with this.
He was.
But there's been an explosion in administration in universities in the last few decades. Part of that is because there's been an explosion in the student population. But he compared private universities to public universities. And the student population has just about doubled across the board. Public universities, the administration size has just about doubled. A little bit more, just because you're going to get a little bit more with the bureaucracy as you get more layers to manage the stuff. But with the private universities, it's gone like through the roof. Just explosion, just this huge glut of administrative staff.
Yep.
And basically that is just form fillers and box tickers and flunkies all over the place. As they say, look at how important we are, we're doing this stuff.
That's managerial feudalism, as it were. Yeah.
Whereas the public universities are actually accountable to the public, and therefore they have to keep costs down, except with respect to the head coach of the biggest sports team in the state.
Of course. Every single time. And sometimes those coaches then go into the NFL, as it were. Or sometimes they come from the NFL, which is why they demand that big salary, as it were, and because it's important to get to the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Cotton Bowl.
And also, I mean, those sports programs are incredibly lucrative for those universities.
It's just kind of how they make money. Same thing with the basketball programs for the Final Four, because like this school has contracts with ESPN to be able to show those games during March Madness.
And those students sacrifice their health and they get nothing.
Because the NCAA says,
isn't that different now though? Didn't they just pass a new
they're
law?
starting to get some licensing rights, I think. But they still can't be paid directly. I think so.
Yeah. There's still strict laws of like the students actually being paid directly for their.
See, I think there should just be no money in sports.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
There should be no money.
Pretty much. Yeah, just put that period two words over. Just no money. Period.
Yeah, the NCAA has said that you can get money from name, image, and likeness. You're still not allowed to be paid directly, but if you end up in a sports game, you are now going to get paid for that.
That's good, because there are several athletes that like would be like featured on the cover or in like games of NCAA basketball, NCAA like football 2010, EA, NCAA like hockey and stuff like that, and none of the athletes got paid for all of that sort of thing. And yeah, it's like Jordan P. My old job was like bullshit, as like did for like 8 hours for prep food for the cooks sometimes that they can easily do without me. I would have want to be a server, but my Xbox says no. Yes, yeah. Oh, and that's
and Graver also mentions that a lot of jobs have bullshit in them because they expand the work to fill the hours rather than cutting the hours and keeping the pay the same, and so on.
Exactly.
Bullshit jobs are jobs that are created or have become complete bullshit. They offer no substantial benefit or value to anyone.
And then there's
ego.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you think about like some of these like bullshit jobs that when you examine it that they shouldn't really be there, and then figure out like the whole industry as it were, sometimes there's like whole industries that are just entirely bullshit. The finance industry. And the problem is like when some of those companies or they're like the industry is all bullshit, but they still have office buildings that the commercial landlords get money from, and then
the janitorial staff does work, and there are people doing genuine work in support of bullshit, making their jobs to some degree bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So it's just like this kind of like further bullshitization of this like a whole thing. And Graeber thinks that like, and others who like give testimonies to Graeber about their bullshit jobs figured that like it is because of like this mentality of work is good. Even Democrats will also say with Republicans, we need jobs, we need jobs, we need jobs. And
Obama was the big example he had there.
Exactly.
Like, we can't go to the public option. What about those millions of people doing this obviously useless work? What work would they be doing if they didn't have these useless jobs?
Yeah, and he even said like, "Oh yeah, we would save a lot of money if we just like went to like a single payer healthcare system." But it's just something that then 3 million people would like lose their jobs as were. And David Graeber pointed out, there's like that's the smoking gun of this like whole system as were. I agree with Bill Hooks about like marketing. David Graeber had a quote from Bill Hicks, as it were, where it's just like, so what's your job? My job is to make sure that you do the work, but that there's not a lot of work to do. Well, you still have to like do the work. How about you say that like I did the work and then I can go do whatever I want to do. That way we both could like get paid. Yes, that's kind of like bullshitization of like other jobs. There was a guy who had to man the cash register at like a student's store in the college as were, and he had to be smiling to the customers, and he cannot like be on his phone as it were. That's not professional. Be reading a book. That's not professional.
Time to lean, time to clean.
That's exactly what I've been told by my gas station job. That's exactly what my manager said. Actually, there's always something to do, and it's just like, no, there's not. Okay, yeah, I can move things here to over here and from here to over there, but does that actually encompass something? Or I can check the dates in like all the sodas to see if there's like ones that have expired or something like that, but is that actually like useful as it were? Turns out, yeah, sometimes actually there were expired sodas because that soda didn't sell. But I managed to find a blind spot in the cameras and on the counter, and I had a back support so I can lean up against the counter, and I just like played on my DS for hours and hours in blind spot at the gas station job when it was very slow, so I got away with it, and I'm glad of it. Even though I would be yelling because I'm dying in Contra 4, and then West Tech International came over, was like, "Is everything all right?" I was like, "Yeah, everything is fine. Nothing to worry about."
Well, what gets me about a lot of this shit is stuff that, okay, there used to be a day back when I was a kid when there wasn't a bunch of cameras everywhere. Bosses did not have constant surveillance on their workers. And so workers did a lot of goofing off.
Mm-hmm.
They sat there and read that book. Mm-hmm. They played their video game.
And nobody suffered,
whatever,
except for the upper
suffered.
management. No, the upper management.
And the only reason that they really suffered is because they were pissy about it. It's not because the work wasn't getting done. I mean, there's always something to do. Okay, you're just flat out wrong. It's just like my aunt.
That's what
I had. I had an auntie who used to say, "Only boring people get bored."
Fuck your auntie.
And when she would say that, I'd be like, "What? What? Like, it doesn't make any sense."
But yeah, that was the thing Graeber pointed out in the book, is that they think they own your time.
Yes.
And therefore, you always have to be doing something for them. Hence, they come up with shit for you to do, even if it has no value.
Mm-hmm. Watching a perfectly clean backboard because, like, hey, the three of you were fantastic and efficient in like cleaning all those dishes in like record time. That like Graeber and his buddies in the story he told like were goofing off, went out back to the smoke, and the super officer's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you smoking on my time?" But the old dish is clean. They cleaned the backboard. It's actually perfectly clean too. Clean it again, as it were. It's just like, again, that the underlings cannot be like goofing off on my time, and it's also that supervisor showing a force of power, just straight up bullying essentially, because I have domination power over you. You work for me, so you get to do what I say.
See, I like Richard Wolff's ideas where we go to like a co-op situation and bring democracy into the workplace.
Mhm.
Like I like that idea, so that the workers are actually choosing their own supervisors. Like if you're gonna pay
If they even
somebody
need
to watch
supervisors.
over you, that's it's a useless job to pay somebody to watch over you if it's your business.
Mhm.
Like it's a useless job. And so the manager then becomes the person who's actually managing things, not managing the people who are working, but actually managing the shit that needs to get done around the store that you don't want to do because you're a fucking worker. Like it switches the whole power dynamic. You know what I mean? It
Mhm.
gives the power to the lowest people that are
And
working
that's
there.
why they don't do it.
Yeah, that's exactly why they don't do it. But if we did, this brings democracy into the workplace for us. We wouldn't have to have unions at that point.
And that explains why capitalism is antithetical to democracy. They don't want it. And that's why the Constitution has a whole lot of anti-democratic shit built into it, because democracy was only ever a fig leaf for transfer of power from one set of elites to another.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because it was just the bourgeoisie, the very wealthy mercantile class at the time in 1700s that wanted the power and didn't want to like give power back to the king, as it were, or didn't want to have to like serve the king or serve the monarchy, as it were. Or the taxation without representation, I'd say no to the tax. They just didn't want to pay taxes. That was part of it. So like the right-wing libertarian of like, don't tread on me, I don't want to pay taxes, it's actually baked into the like American like origin, as it were. Origin, of course. The founding fathers, they also wanted to expand westward into the Ohio Valley, but like the British Crown actually had like treaties with like the people in the Ohio Valley, and once we became America, we're not no, those treaties don't apply. Yeah. But
it's just a long list of bullshit.
Exactly. Hey, I thought I heard a cat, but there's Wesley.
Yes, my cat came up here and she's yelling at me to be petted.
Yeah, but yeah, let's see what else. Oh, it's kind of interesting thing that's like is well, as we left this all say as the word, it's like you need the frontline workers, because like imagine if all the workers disappeared at McDonald's, then the McDonald's will still run, as it were. But if the CEO of McDonald's disappear, the McDonald's will still run. But if all the workers disappear, the McDonald's can't run.
I was about to say, you get that backwards.
I did do that backwards. My apologies. But an example that's like David Gray pointed out in the book in a footnote is that like that actually helped with the Belgium for like 300 days or something like that, almost a full year. Belgium did not have a federal government, as it were. I think they
lost like most of their executives. Yeah, the top level executives.
Exactly. But yet Belgium ran fine because of the provisional government.
Of course, like because if your workers are still going to work, you still get products made. Like it's just that simple. You don't actually.
In this case, it was the government rather than the company, but yeah. And also Uber, I think, has been functioning without executives for quite some time, or at least as of the writing of the book. So this would have been a couple of years ago. But for months, they lost like most of their top level management, CEO, CFO, so on.
Remind me, unrelated to the topic, but like there's something happening about like a Uber with Prop 22 in California, as it were. Let's see. What was another thing that like David Graver pointed out in the bullshit shop? I'm trying to remember because I'm rereading the book myself. I have like read it before in the past. So he did point out like Maynard James Keenan in the 1930s that said that like predicted that like by this time, in the 1970s and stuff like that, we only had to work a 15-hour like a work week, as it were, because like.
And that's true, except for the proliferation of bullshit.
Exactly, because like even for all the jobs that were common at the time, it's like yeah, they have this crease as it were, or like plateaued and something like that. But people think, oh, because we went from like a production economy to a service economy. But even work at service jobs, like people at Starbucks, people giving massages, those kind of things, fast food workers and all this stuff. No, the service industry maintained itself.
Plateaued,
like
yeah.
Yeah, there
It's
wasn't
information that has proliferated.
yeah, so like clerical administrative jobs, that one skyrocketed. The managerial class. And what's the kind of people that like are in the managerial class? White people, which Jay Sakai in his book Settlers, the mythology of the white proletariat, also point out it was kind of a way for the white people to maintain the economic domination and control over like everyone else, as it were, because like who gets those jobs? Essentially, the people who are able to go to universities, the people who have like connections, as like some of those like bullshit jobs are kind of like, someone's son or someone's nephew needs like a position at this company, so like given this position in company, or that nephew like gets promoted to like a upper management level or something like that, and in order to prove that he's an important person at the upper management level, he needs flunkies and like other underlings, as the word. So again, both further bullshit jobs be made. And so
and one of the reasons why that's allowable at those private universities that are supposed to be all about profits is because those private universities are managed by that sort of rich asshole who thinks it's perfectly acceptable to have a community completely full of flunkies.
Yeah. So, and I think, and other things like, so people would like criticize like the USSR. So the USSR and other like planned economies and state communist like countries as were did kind of like had like a make work sort of thing. So which why the USSR did had a lot of bullshit jobs where it's like it takes 3 clerks in order to like buy a pound of bread, is because everyone must work. Everyone must work. Everyone must work. And capitalists like to think it's like, but that was terribly efficient. Look how terrible this is. We're different than that. And look what is happening as well, especially with the bullshit, the bureaucracy in private corporations, as well as like public entities, as were that like,
just as a species, we have to get past the idea that everybody must work. Just as a species.
Yep, it's there's a Protestant mindset of like everyone must work. So some of the people that gave testimonies to David Graeber, it's kind of like said, look at Facebook. Well, how many think pieces are there about like, look at these lazy millennials that they don't want to work. They gotta like, come on, they gotta get out there.
They don't want to do useless work for no money, or useless work or shit work for no money.
Because like there a lot of those people that were actually paid well enough for the jobs, they hate feeling that like what they're doing at that job is pointless. It's kind of like a psychological warfare, as David Graeber talked about it and discussed in 2 of the chapters, that like they it wears on them because human beings love the idea that they're able to like make something move. When a baby realizes that they touch something and it causes something to move, they get the a adulation, an exhilaration of joy from like discovering that they are the cause of something. So when they're put in a position that they can never cause that for their job, and 8 hours out of the day, 5 days out of the week, and then all the time to back and forth from home to office, which would finally like allow people to work from home because of the pandemic, because we were forced to. And then kind of makes you wonder, it's like, wait a minute, why do people have to go back to the offices if the pandemic's over when we can do work at home? Oh, it's about domination. You work for me, exactly, on my time.
I own your time, therefore I have to be able to watch you at all hours to make sure you're doing something useful.
And that's what a lot of people complain about in their bullshit jobs, as a word, because they cannot give up. They cannot just go onto Facebook. They cannot. Some of them manage to find.
They find ways.
Yes, one guy actually like managed to like take a browser and make it all like text based, and so that and remove all the JavaScript sort of thing. So it looks like he's actually programming, but really he's actually just editing Wikipedia pages, including a lot of David Graeber's Wikipedia pages. But still, even then, he wants to feel like he's doing important work. Some people that give testimonies just like quit their jobs and then start to live in a commune growing food, as it were, or just be like live out of like a van but like playing the guitar. But they like to feel that they're doing something useful and they're doing something things, and that's like natural. And a lot of like humans want to feel like they're doing good for the community, as it were. And so when they don't have the ability to do that, as it were, it's psychological warfare on them.
Mm-hmm. Said that, going back to the baby, once you realize that you can have an impact on the world, then that
I should probably read this guy.
It's available for free online. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat right now as soon as I get the right window open. There we go. And now I open up a different window. Okay, link goes in the chat. Boom. Being able to influence the world and make changes, brings joy. And therefore, the purest expression of human freedom is just play. It's just make-believe, inventing your own world, even if it's just inside your head. And therefore, a bullshit job, or being forced to do bullshit, to waste your time in this way, is like the purest expression of human unfreedom.
It's kind of funny that like early after, so David Graeber all started because of just an essay that he had as a rant, as a word, because he would make these like people who say he would ask me, so what did you do for a living? And said, not much. And he thinks to be modest because he goes to these cocktail parties. Being a professor in anthropology, they go, "Oh, professor in anthropology, so that's very cool. That's like important work you actually do." And what do you do? No, nothing. I can get my work done in like an hour or two. Don't tell my boss, but I spend all the times like making cat memes and updating my Facebook posts. And then you think that they were being modest, and then finally, nope, they're actually serious, as it were.
So somebody offered him the opportunity to write an article for them that he didn't think he'd be allowed to write anywhere else, and he wrote it for them, and they published it, and then it exploded, got translated into dozens of languages, and republished over and over and over again, because everyone was like, "Yeah, my job is complete bullshit, and I hate it."
He was getting reports from people, emails from people. You're onto something. I'm working in the financial industry. We have formed teams. We have shared this article around. This thing has come across my email 16 times already today. To which David Graeber says, "Wow, you people really don't do anything all day."
And people went ahead and quantified it. They did surveys at least and asked, is your job bullshit? And roughly 40% of respondents say, "Yep, my job is complete bullshit."
Yep, and
that was 2 independent surveys that he talks about in the book.
Yeah. The YouGov poll, it said 37% of people would like figure out that like they said, "No, yeah, my job is useless. My job is pointless. Doesn't need to exist. It's bullshit," as it were. While like 13% doesn't know. And then about 50% said this is, and but also he actually did said someone did say to him, "Oh no, my job is not bullshit. I'm a consultant. I go to all these other companies and tell them just like how to save money and they can cut these like bullshit jobs."
My job isn't bullshit. My job is bullshitting.
No. What he said was, "My job isn't bullshit because I go and tell them which of their jobs are bullshit and they need to cut them." And then he realized, wait, my job is bullshit because they never listen to me.
Yes. Like, cut the jobs. Look at the feudal empire or something like that. Yet it seems antithetical to capitalism because it's all about efficiency, as it were.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, that sort of job, Graeber would classify that as ticking boxes. Because they're going through the motions of doing a thing in order to make it look like they're improving something with no intention of ever following through on it.
The governments love to do that. See, look, we did a thing.
Private businesses. The government actually does stuff when they do that stuff. It might then carry on and continue being filed or something like that. But usually that stuff is acted upon somewhere. Like you said, there's the thing with the public purse. It usually ends up being checked and curtailed before it can become complete bullshit. That bloat comes from, that's the point he makes over and over again in the book. The bloat is coming from the private sector, not the public sector.
And yeah, you're right. We gotta like just abandon the idea that like people need to work. People need to work, as it were. And I think as like it's from like a Protestant mindset, as it were. Like work is valuable in of itself, as it were. Which is why this conservative woman I like to talk to he thinks that like Planned Parenthood is killing babies because of like you see these images of this fetus in the woman's womb fighting for his life. I was like, I don't know what she was describing. I don't know what she was saying. But anyway, she said, well, disabled people, there's something that they can do, right? So we gotta like put them to work for like the one thing that they can't do, even so a couple of hours a day. And I rejected that premise of the question and outright, just completely, as it were.
Yeah, they can count the fuzz on caterpillars, even if they're blind and paraplegic.
Like I am currently trying to file for disability in I already got rejected the first time, and now I'm in the process of reapplying, which apparently that's a given. Like I'm finding that out. That's just a given. It doesn't matter what happened to you.
Yeah, they're putting the barrier in your way.
If you are applying for disability, they are immediately going to say no matter what's wrong with you. And then your best bet is get a lawyer immediately and then reapply.
Yeah.
And so I am in the process right now. Now is the point where I get to get a lawyer and I got to reapply. So I'm getting ready. Like I'm in that step right now. Now, as far as my disability is concerned, could I do something a couple of hours a day? Probably, if you make it a special interest, something that I already wanted to do anyway, then maybe I might have the spoons. But to have the spoons to do that, there is like a list of shit that I need to have happen in my life to put me in the position to be able to do that. If I want the spoons to be able to do that, then I can't be using the spoons on freaking out about my finances, which I already am. I can't use the spoons for, trying to make up for the fact that I do not have all of the supplies that I need to live my best life, so that I can I can then use those spoons for doing something else with my day. Like there's a bunch of supplies that I need, a bunch of steps that I'd have to have made first before I could then just go, oh yeah, no, I totally have 3 or 4 hours that I could use in my day that I could, do something quote unquote productive, but it would still have to be a special interest. Like that's the thing. Because my disabilities at this point, I hit autistic burnout. And sometimes when you hit an autistic burnout, you don't know if it's coming back. You don't know if it's going to be done and when it's going to be done. And so there's like levels of anxiety that I have and shit like that I have to actually be cognizant of in order to be able to do anything with my day, even if I enjoy it. And so who's going to pay me to do something that I already enjoy, though? Like, are my skills marketable, quote unquote?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the issue. I mean, it's not really that people need to have something to do with their day. We know that every human being needs to have something to do with their day. I mean, we know what happens when we stick people, for example, in solitary confinement.
Their day.
Exactly. And if it's capitalism in charge, then the standard is always going to be, but is it profitable? If you put one of the others, whether it's socialism or communism in charge, your basic function becomes care for the proletariat, not capital for those who are in power, but a social safety fabric for your proletariat. Like not just a net. There's no holes in what you want to create. You want to create a fabric so nobody gets through, so nobody falls through a crack. There are no cracks in what you want to build. And that is easy to do with the kind of technology that we have nowadays. It would be so simple to get this done now. Like, we don't have to hew our living from out of the very rocks and earth around us. We have the kind of technology that we could literally bring our plants inside with us now.
I don't know. It sounds kind of gay.
I know, right? It's that gay agenda again. Fully automated. How does it go? Fully
luxury gay space communism.
Luxury gay space communism. Yeah.
I always had the anarcho part to communism, but that's me. But yeah. So yeah, and I agree with you. Yeah, we can actually have the technology now, as it were, for luxury automated communists, and for the most part, and maybe there'll still be some work to do, but we can share the work. So it's maybe like 16 hours a day.
I
6 hours a
really
week.
feel like it will work itself out, because if there's still work for humans to do, there's going to be a human who wants to do the work. There are people who actually like pushing paper.
Well, that's the thing that also David Graeber pointed out.
And there are people who will volunteer to pick up trash because they know it's valuable.
Right. Exactly, and
to say that it provides social value.
Exactly, right. Because like it's something it has to be like done, and it's like so someone at their elementary school, they actually talked to former elementary school, they talked to the gender there and found out that gender actually won the lottery, $1 million. So he pretty much, and he didn't like waste it away and like save it and have the holdings and something like that. So he's actually said for doesn't have to work as a gender, but he chose to work as a gender because he actually likes providing a service and value to the community and getting along with the kids at the schools. That's a word. And so it's like, boom, right there. Someone, a janitor, won the lottery, continues to be a janitor. It's entirely possible. And I don't want to deny the people that actually want to do that kind of work or something like that. Many of the people that had bullshit jobs, like quit their jobs to be teachers or quit their jobs to be like nurses, as it were. Those are valuable positions. And this is something David Graeber also point out to, how strange it is that like, oh, but you're a teacher. Oh man, you're a teacher. I would love to do that. That's like a value to society or something like that. And it's often those are the least paid jobs. It's almost like parallel to like how low a job is paid to how useful it actually is, and some of the worst paid jobs are some of the most valuable jobs in society, as it were. And
well, yeah, anybody who's ever gone into one of those restrooms where you're at a gas station that's in the middle of God's nowhere and you go walking in there and it's like a fucking horror movie happened in that bathroom. Like there's no way you'd rather go use the cornfield next door. Like that's how bad this bathroom is. Anybody who's ever walked into a bathroom like that knows for a fact just how valuable a good janitor is. Like,
and anybody who's ever had a job knows how valuable a boss is.
And since like David Graeber was going off of like self-reported people, either people who responded to the original essay, or when that original essay was like republished in many different like publications, and those testimonies there, or testimonies he received from like Twitter. Funny enough, no small business owner said that I have bullshit job. Surprisingly, none of the business owners, none of the actual bosses who own the company said, oh yeah, I have a bullshit job. My job doesn't need to be there, because they all said,
of course they didn't. They're convinced they do something.
Exactly. Which is why they have to like be paid like as much as they do, or extract the surplus value of their workers and their employees that they have,
and have to be able to write off their quote unquote business lunches.
Exactly. It's just
I'm doing something valuable there. I am forming next
supervising
Schmidt Martini, making forming. It's. Shut up.
I'm power broke. I'm
a power broker. I am the Northwest Northwest consulting manager of like marketing for the like Eastern division.
I'm power networking. That's what
there
I'm
it is. Networking. There,
yes,
I'm networking. Devil's Triangle. That's what it is.
Oh, do not look up Devil's Triangle on the internet. No.
You'll just get pictures of Brett Kavanaugh. Nobody wants that.
Exactly. So I did put into like a playlist that I put together of a bunch of talks that David Graeber has done over the years that like been put up on YouTube. And so like there's a lot of talks about his like a book, Get the First 5,000 Years. Still a great book. I'd recommend to read that one. But he also has done a lot of talks, so you can get some of the ideas that he talked about in the book in those talks, like how he said that like, hey, this is something that was a light bulb to Moriarty, that like, you know what? we all are communists because we all act communistically amongst each other. Say two people are at like a work site, even if they're working on separate projects. One saying, "Hey, can you hand me that wrench?" And the other guy and a person goes, "Here you go." That's a communist.
That'll be $5.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
instead of the capitalist slave, where it's like, "What's in it for me?" Or that'll be $5. And so, like, if only
And
Well,
the
and how
rich
many
love
times,
communism
like-
for the rich.
How many times do you take your buddy out because he can't afford the beer? How many times do you know, your girlfriend can't afford this or she can't afford that? And you're like, you know what? Spa day is on me today. Like we naturally act with our closest people as if we were communists, especially if you share the same household. If you're all living within the same household, the vast majority of human beings are acting communistically every single day, all day, while they're at home. I mean, most of them are.
Yep.
Plus, there's also, you know, how we are when we're little kids. Because if you ask a, 6-year-old, you know, if somebody's hungry, should you feed them? Yes. The kid doesn't go, for what?
I don't know. Have they earned that food? I don't know.
What are they going to do in exchange?
Are they a leech on society? Are they a home? Are they black?
And hey, listen, leeches actually have a medical purposes. So if you say that landlords are leeches, that's an insult to leeches.
That's true.
Another category of people that did not self-report to having bullshit jobs, landlords, if I remember correctly.
Of course they wouldn't. Talk about a bullshit job. They don't even have a job. What do? I own
something. That's not a job. Yes, it is. Shut up. I have to make sure that people don't use my stuff.
I have to make a call to my property manager. I'll have you know.
I have to get the sheriff to evict someone. That is hard work. I feel so bad about it afterwards.
Do you know how many emails I have to send out? I have to make sure that the maintenance guy actually does like fix the toilet. They do actually something, but I called that maintenance guy to tell him to fix the toilet. Parasites are not leeches. I think you got a point there. It's random. The random offshoot. Parasite's an excellent movie. You do see that movie. Do see the movie Parasite. That kind of does point at capitalism and says like, "Oh wow, this is wrong."
See, I see management as being something like a positive parasite if the management is actually doing a managing job. Because there are things you want to manage. So like, for example, what pops into my mind is like, if you're self-employed, like my brother, for example, has his own self-employment construction business. Right now, he's trying to partner up with another guy who actually has business skills, but is tired of working on the job, because my brother is having the opposite problem. He's getting tired of working on the job because he hates doing all the paperwork. So if he gets somebody to do the paperwork, he can then be happy about going to work every day because all he's got to do is do the job. He doesn't have to do the paperwork. There is paperwork that has to be done, though. And
the thing about management is you should manage tasks, not people.
Right. And he's trying to do an indigenous. He's right now trying to actually bring more indigenous in to get a fully indigenous construction company off the ground in our state, in our area, because we actually don't live very far from where Indian Collective is getting off the ground. And I don't know if you guys know about that charitable organization, but I've
heard of it.
It's a really good one. NDN Collective. But
that stands for North Dakota Natives.
They're also trying to help indigenous businesses get off the ground here in our area, just because, you know, it's one of those things where indigenous people have learned a long time ago not to trust the United States government in anything they say or do. You can't for anything. They'll make promises this 4 years, only for 4 years from now all those promises get yanked away. Like, and it just happens over and over and over and over again. So indigenous people, especially in some of the bigger tribes, we're trying to get as sovereign as we can be financially. We're trying to get our economies off the ground, but we're not trying to do it like capitalists do. We're trying to get it done like socialists would. We're trying to do it traditionally. And so Indian Collective is an organization that's trying to help get something that's more like what my brother's trying to do, where it's indigenous owned and operated. Everybody who's working there is indigenous. And then eventually, hopefully, we change over into co-ops as time goes on.
I asked, what's his name? Andrew Torres about this on Twitter the other day. Is there a way for employees to own businesses? He said, look up ESOPs, employee stock ownership programs. Is one way to manage that. So I just posted a link to that. I don't know how useful those would be for the North Dakota Natives Collective project there.
I mean, it's one thing, I guess, like owning the actual stocks of like the companies. I will have to say I listened to a streamer friend of mine, LQ, and they did work for like co-ops in like Minnesota, I like to think, or maybe Indianapolis, and he has some critiques about like the co-op that he works for, how it's just like this loaf of bread that would normally be like $1.50 at like the Safeway or the other corporate for-profit like food stores, but at the co-op is like $3, and they had to also like force the employees to have to like pay for like the food, as it were, that's like on top of like the prices, something like that. So there's I think the co-ops are still like an answer, but there is like criticism that can be had like a certain co-ops or a co-op culture, and so that's something I'll look into, as it were, or just like put it out there. But like owning the stocks of the company is just kind of like, I mean, I guess, but it's just like, guess is like the step towards that, but I'm not sure if like
it's a way to make sure that it's forcing local areas to recognize ownership and distributed liability and all those other things.
I think it's
because you can't just say nobody owns the stuff. You have to have somebody owns the
in
stuff.
the interim, yeah.
Like while we're trying to operate within a capitalist system.
That's all.
This is an option.
Yeah.
I mean, I would prefer that it just go full communist and.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree.
But in the interim, while we're having to work within the capitalist system, I feel like co-ops are great.
Yep.
Okay. I just remembered something that's also like been happening this week. Do you know about like the Nabisco company and the Chippehoy's cookies and all that sort of thing?
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah.
Okay.
What
so
did they
yes, the workers are striking.
Have they been using elf labor?
No, unfortunately, I'm not sure. So here's the thing: the workers are striking. So, and the workers are also like going for a boycott of Chips Ahoy and Nabisco products. However, as the Twitter thread from the Jonah Blackheart is like pointing out, by the way, follow Jonah Blackheart. They're non-binary, mixed race, Mexican, black, non-binary person that's just awesome and like works in the video game industry, or is an independent contractor on accessibility, something like that. They're disabled too.
So their gender is Tex-Mex.
Sorry. But that's a thread that like Jonah Blackheart is responding to some of the workers at Nabisco and doing the strikes and going for the boycott and something like that are complaining about like they're sending the jobs over to Mexico, as it were, and point out how white people, if you talk like that, that's kind of like white supremacy. It's because it's terrible that our jobs are being sent to Mexico or something like, when you really need like a worker solidarity with the workers in Mexico as well, who like many have to like come to here because the jobs are paid like very poorly in like Mexico, as it were. And like this kind of like seems like a very American first attitude, as it were. It's like our jobs being taken away. They're taking our jobs, as it were, or which is why you're boycotting. You can definitely like strike and boycott for like a workers like class. but you don't need to like bring in right-wing or fascist like or nationalistic rhetoric, as it were, of like, oh no, the job's being sent out of Mexico, this is terrible. And so I think that's very important to like bring up and to inform, because like yes, support for the workers at the Nabisco, and hope that they get everything is like just like the workers at like Frito-Lay did, like successfully strike to at least get 1 day off out of like 7 days a week, now 6 days a week. But like yeah, you just like, we don't need to throw Mexico or Mexicans under the bus because of like our shitty like a work environment.
The problem with sending jobs to Mexico isn't the Mexicans. It's the fact that they can send jobs there and make more profit because they have even less labor protection than we do here.
Yep, the NAFTA, the North American like Trade Federation Agreement, as it were, or which like they was really, that's this whole problem with that, this whole free trade and something like that, and like TIPA, the Trans Pacific Partnership Program as well, which yes, I can agree with Trump being against like the TIPA, as it were, or the TPP, but like his reasons for being against Trump was just very nationalistic, as it were. My reasons being against like the TPP is because it was terrible for workers' rights, because free trade is just great for the corporations, because we got free movement of capital while we don't have free movement of people.
Well, I mean, an ongoing pattern though is among libertarians, which I would say that Trump's closer to a libertarian than he is anything else. Sure. One of the big major issues with libertarians is that like 75, maybe 80% of the issues, the actual issues that they bring up, I have an issue with X, I have an issue with Y. Like 80%
it would be better resolved by
issues,
ending
I
capitalism.
agree with the issue that they're identifying.
Mm-hmm.
What I can't agree with is their solution. Like where they go from there is just like, how did you just wormhole through reality? How do you solve that? You can't solve that issue with your freaking suggestion. We've tried that already. It's the most juvenile suggestion ever. Well, people just got to pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
People are suffering under capitalism. What we need to do is more capitalism.
Bigger, better capitalism.
This is why the states are bad, because they tax us and give us regulations for us to not exploit our workers even more.
The workers are being exploited. We need less regulations.
Then the workers could. No, unions are bad.
They don't make any sense. Like they can see the issue. I can see that they can see the issue.
They've been brain
But then
damaged
they get
from
lost.
all the boot polish fumes.
Yeah, no shit. It's probably all the brown on their noses. Because that's the thing that gets me, is that then they go like, the same people that are hurting us are then just give them more power. They'll help us eventually. Well, what are you even saying right now? How is it like there's special corporations we can trust? What are you on? Like, I want to be able to check out a reality that hard.
One thing is just like the reality that we were told by the American educational system. Even people who like went to college for AP History in America, as were American history and college courses, only stop at like World War II and nothing afterwards.
It's advanced since we were in school. Now they go up to 1990 and the end of the Cold War.
With that kind of...
They probably lie about Vietnam, but now they at least cover it.
But that's kind of part of it. It's like we are like told one kind of reality, as it were, in our education system, because we have to have the same...
Because our education system is about producing indoctrinated patriotic workers.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and for justice for all.
With capitalism.
With capitalism. And America, fuck yeah, we're great because...
and remember to look up the original salute that went along with the Pledge of Allegiance.
America, fuck yeah.
That's my younger brother's like political philosophy in 3 words, according to him. Oh yeah.
I haven't ever understood that, ever. I have never understood how gung-ho patriotic people are about what is arguably, it's just a fucking nation. Like, it's not that big of a deal, yo. They've existed throughout human history. I mean, as far as we can think backwards, we've had what is basically a tribe. And so, like, tribe, fuck yeah. Like, what the fuck? Like, why? What? I've never understood how gung-ho people are about that. Like, what is wrong with you?
Yay for us, be Padawanama! Yay for us, be Padawanama!
Yeah, yay us. Go us. Yeah, not you though. I don't really like you. See, that's my thing. There's like a bunch of people that I can say are also Lakota that I don't want to actually claim them as being Lakota. They're not like me. Like, that's why I don't understand the whole tribalism thing. Like, I get that you come from a people, a culture, this is your family, you come out of this kind of household, that household was like other households, blah blah blah, yada yada. I get that, but to then think of all of them like, yeah, that's us.
I think it's sort of an issue of alienation. Instead of being alienated from the product, it's being alienated from the people around you. As we get more and more atomized and more isolated, we need some sort of fictional kinship group to replace actual kinship groups, and so we invent religion and nationality.
We're Red Sox fans.
I mean, technically, we invent a whole bunch of stuff because like, I'm more part of a big group of nerdy comrade sort of people. So, I mean, and technically, we've got our own tribe that way.
But
the difference is that I would like our ideas to apply to everybody in a way that everybody is helped and not harmed.
Yep.
And that's the big difference between the far left, quote unquote, and the far right. The far right want everybody's ideas to be implemented, but the implementation of them would harm so many people. Whereas,
the left wants to use government to help people. The right wants to use government to hurt people.
Exactly. And control people, which is harm.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially for people like me who are anti-authoritarians. Like, that's the thing they can't get through their fucking head. Like, my way leaves room for them. Their way
you just want to take power for yourself. You're lying. That's you're lying. We can't trust.
See, they can give me power, and I'm not going to take it because I don't really want it to begin with. That's the wonderful thing about anarchists. They didn't want the leadership position. They weren't seeking out the power. They're willing to fill a vacuum. But they also cede power, and that can be actually baked into a culture. Yeah, like, you can bake that into a culture so that is the underlying philosophy, so that anti-authoritarianism is almost like the default position of human beings. They're not ever going to fall prey to a fascist, even if they want a lot of discipline in their lives, because there are people like that. They do want somebody to tell them what to do every day. There's people like that. I'm also a dom. There's people who want to be told what to do every day. That's just how they roll.
The important thing there is the consent part.
Consent. That's the important thing.
Well, you have to have consent from both people and visa.
Oh, right.
Yeah, don't forget the capitalists. They gotta be in there somewhere.
The payment processors, the capitalists, and it's just like, it's just like,
I can't believe how bad that was. They just threw everybody under the bus at once. It's like, here's how we got rich, but now we're gonna go legit. That's what it feels like.
Yeah,
like they're going to go, quote unquote, legit now.
We made our money off of you. Now fuck off.
We're
going to sell our company, walk away, and I don't care about you. Fuck you. I got mine.
I think I think Patreon also has a similar thing as like they have like they're trying to go like bigger as well because they have a major investment from like investment firms or investment capital as were with some
And
of
that
the companies.
investment capital is so fucking stupid. Tumblr went from being worth $1 billion to being worth $3 million when it banned the female presenting nipple.
Mm-hmm. But it's just like they want to make money, but don't not that kind of money. Apparently, is where
I need legitimate funds.
Which is kind of like it shows you just like how sometimes it's like the capitalism the patriarchy maybe override the capitalism, that's a word, because like they found the sexual patriarchy to be upheld much more than the capitalism. That's because it's all about control. We can't have like women and non-binary people and other femme folks and queer folks to be able to have like power over themselves, autonomy over themselves. No, they can't have that. They have to like go out there and work because like that's important as work, even if they have bullshit jobs. But the one thing that I do want to like mention, because like this is a recent development as it were, speaking of like capitalism being terrible and how we don't have like real democracy under capitalism, Prop 22 in California the past election cycle, because Uber, Lyft, and all those other like app-based gig economy companies, they spend millions of dollars in California to advertise. No, on Prop 22. No, Prop 22. That's the word. Yeah, yes, on Prop 22.
Whichever one was the bad one.
Yes, whichever one's the bad one. Because like then it'll be then the Uber drivers and all that stuff may be defined back as independent contractors instead of what they were actually forced to do. It's like consider them to actually be employees and give the Uber drivers benefits and all that stuff and a minimum wage and all that stuff and stuff like that. So the because of marketing, the California's voted yes on Prop 22, which was in favor of Uber, et cetera. But now, as this tweet show, but the San Francisco Chronicle goes into further detail that I already linked before. The Supreme Courts of California has found Prop 22 unconstitutional, as it were. Unable to legislate a amendment is like a not a German opportunity to stated themes and purposes or subject, as it were. The petition, therefore, is granted, and petitioners are ordered to serve the file and propose to the judge in the form of which consists with the order within intended court days. Service and notice of entry and of this order August 21st, as were. So so finally some good news, I guess, for the Uber drivers and gig workers in California, as it were, because it's in the courts.
You live in a capitalist hellscape, but there are some defenses.
There's some defenses, yes. So some good news finally out of the system of
See, that's what I think. All we'd really have to do is hollow out the systems we already have and repair them. We don't have to get rid of it completely. I mean, there's some good scaffolding there. There's some decent foundation. There's some.
We managed to build enough houses to house all the homeless people in the U.S.
Yeah, we just don't have them in them.
because even our local politicians don't have the political will of just house the people, as it were, because the investment firms that own and real estate investment firms that own those houses want to keep them empty so that they can renovate them and then sell massive profits off the houses that they bought after the 2008 crash for super cheap, that's where, and they flipping the houses, that's where. I have not watched live television for a long time, but when I did for Saturday afternoons because of I don't know, this new house or something like that, the advertisements of house flipping was coming on the Saturday afternoon movies, and it's just wow, you're really trying to be able to tell white people in suburbs that no, they can still be rich too. They have to just flip houses, as were, buy a house, renovated instead of housing people, sell for big profits, and you make it sound easy, don't you?
I mean, if you have the startup capital, if you've got let's say $50,000-$60,000 laying around, you can go ahead and do this too. I mean, because you can just YouTube all the shit you're gonna have to do to fix the house.
Oh God, the housing gardening networks, all their programming is around that, rally around the house or that sort of thing. Don't worry, homeowners, you can have stay in this RV for a week while everyone else is gone drill some drills and hammer some hammers and fix up your house, and look, you have a garden now.
Look, I wish somebody would do that to my house. Damn. I wish I could flip my house. That's the thing that gets me most about being a homeowner is I own debt.
Yes.
And what I own is debt to a white-owned company who is literally possessing and selling me back my own land that is unceded treaty land. Like there's this huge long list of all of the shit that pisses me off about me owing money on my own house. And then when I get to it, I'm like, and I don't even want to like roll it or flip it. It's not the most ideal setting. I didn't actually want to live here. I would actually prefer to live farther out in the sticks than I do. But for the most part, it's okay. I'm okay with staying here. It's just I owe so much fucking money on this house. And how is it do all these white people qualify for so many loans and like all of this help that they can just, well, it's because when you walk in there, you're white. You're already got an advantage on somebody like me.
You're presentable when you're white.
Yeah, all you got to do is just like, have taken a shower today. Trim up your nose hairs a little bit. Throw on
that's
a
racist.
Collared shirt.
Yeah, just like you put on a collared shirt. Yeah, exactly.
And you're probably qualifying for a loan today.
Yeah, it also helps when the other person at the bank is also a white person. Oh, a fellow white person. I trust this person. Well, it's like, oh, this is a non-white person as well. And so the denial of like bank loans or student loans or all these sort of things. And then also the thing about like student loans as well, when people get qualified, is also kind of based on like the wealth of the parents, as it were, or the estate, as it were, or how much money they make, as it were. And when white people statistically make more money than non-white people and black people. Yeah. So that's why there's
well, if I had more startup capital than somebody else, then I would qualify for a loan. Like, and I'm not going to qualify for as much loan though. And that's the thing that people don't understand is the less money, but the better credit that you have, the more money your parents had. This then translates into you getting a much bigger loan than somebody who started off poorer than you did. Which doesn't make any sense because what you want is to try to lift the poorer person farther up out of poverty and away from poverty than you would somebody who already started off, 6 meters down away from the starting line, and that's the thing that people aren't understanding. Is that there are pitfalls set for people. And one of them is poverty. And if we could just get poor white folks to understand just how shitty this system is for them, then we could get them on board with progressives and we would be able to do a lot of changing, just a whole lot of changing.
Well, I mean, but would those changes benefit brown people?
That's just it. It would then.
Okay, so that's why you're never going to get poor white people on board.
If you're going to solve the issue of poverty, you will have solved the issue for both indigenous and black people.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why white people will never cooperate.
No, because like unfortunately for like a large chunk of like the population of this country, or a significant chunk, I should say, they have a visceral revulsion to the idea of like a poor black family being able to get a handout. So even when like those handout programs will benefit them when they're poor, or if they are poor, they will rather just like work hard to earn $1 a day as opposed to receiving $2 a day from the government, as it were. And yeah, Valerie, you got an excellent point about like not just like loan size, as it were, but also interest, as it were. White people get better interest rates, and so it goes on the whole thing. This is one thing I remember. Last time I checked my credit rating, I haven't checked recently because I had $22,000 of credit card debt, so that's something. But even when I didn't have as much, was like only like a couple of thousand of like a 20,000 like a credit card limit, as it were. My credit rating was high at like 700, but it could have been better if I have a car loan or a mortgage, as it were. So if I have more credit out there that I have to like pay off eventually, as it were, I show that I am a responsible like consumer, as it were, and that look, I am on the hook for like more money. So yes, I have a good credit score because I regularly make payments on like this big purchase of a car or a house that I cannot pay for myself.
How nonsensical is that? Like I'm so far in the red that my credit is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't make any sense.
The system isn't for you.
Yeah.
But what was it? It was 1978 when this shit started. Like this is not ancient history.
When we
this
shifted
is
from
modern.
a work and get paid economy to a debt and get more debt economy.
Yes. Yep. Because wages like stagnated since the 70s because it's sort of like neoliberalism, as it were. David Gregory kind of also like made this comment, I think in both shots, but also in like other talks, is like because
the
of
decoupling of productivity and wages.
Yeah, but also it's just like the people that are in power now were in college in the 60s and late 60s. What was happening then? The counterculture of the hippie movement. They kind of saw like, oh wait, if everyone got the handouts and be able to be taken care of and like have a welfare state for the white people, look what they're going to do. They have free love and ecstasy and like doing acids and
they try to make the world a better place. We can't have that.
I don't see how that's bad. Why can't we have that? I would like to have free love and ecstasy. How is this a bad thing?
So it's like, no. This generation is too like a free love and too lazy. They got to be work. So let's make up some bullshit jobs for them to like work and also force them to be in situations like, no, you have to like work in order to like live, as it were, because cost of living. I'm sorry, but the cost of living is this much because we said it because like all of our friends have the real estate buddies that like jack up the rent prices as were, and because we have no caps on rent prices still,
and they are literally traumatizing people with poverty. And the issue then becomes, how long does it take and what does it take to become the catalyst, that spark that ignites a whole lot of anger in this country and a whole lot of resentment that causes people to finally have had it, pick up their torches and pitchforks, start pulling out their roasting pans, and start sharpening the blades.
That was what Trump did back in 2016.
Like, it doesn't really take much when you push a population to the extreme that they've pushed us. It doesn't actually take much to become a catalyst for a revolution. Really doesn't. Like, they've set it themselves up. Like,
oh yeah. I mean, like last year, the Guatemala Congress, when they like tried to like shock doctrine and seek a way of like a budget proposal where they took money, like millions of dollars, from their version of the food stamps program and put it into their own food budget program.
I remember
for
that.
The cats and just, the Guatemalan people who knew about it didn't like it. They brought out a functioning guillotine.
I remember that.
It looked like a functioning guillotine outside the steps of like the Congress, and it lit the building on fire too.
I remember that because I was cheering when I saw it.
Yes.
Like, yes. I'm hoping that at some point what happens is it's some place, maybe it has to be the United States, I'm not sure, but some place decides this is enough, we're overthrowing our capitalist assholes, and it ignites all of the fuses all across the world so that everybody does it at once.
Yeah, I mean, it's in like 2001 in Argentina, when like the public distrust of the government was like so bad, as it were, all sides of the political scene in like Argentina, even like the leftist party, as it were, their version of liberals, as it were, even those politicians were afraid to go outside because the public was upset with them with what they were doing, as it were, and that would like sparked a lot of radical movements in Argentina in 2001.
If they didn't start nothing, wouldn't be nothing.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing that gets me. If you don't want Antifa, then don't be the pho. Like,
yes. I mean, like that was the whole point of like FDR. He said that like his greatest accomplishment was like saving capitalism, because the New Deal was just like be able to like, hey, listen, these workers.
That was
these
explicitly
socialists
what the purpose was.
they want a revolution. They saw what happened in Russia in 1917. They want to do that. So all you capitalist buddies, you can either work with me, give the New Deal, give these people, a lot of like great programs, and like minimum wage, like Social Security, like Medicare, like all these things, pension, give them all those things that we never had before. They probably won't do a revolution. That will do it just for the white people, because we're so racist as fuck. But we'll do that, and then that way we'll save off a revolution. Half the business people is like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. You want to put that there? The other said, like, fuck no, we're gonna coup you. We'll find a general that's gonna make the interim president, and we'll coup you, and then we're gonna get rid of you, commie shit and stuff like that. They found the wrong general, because like
I actually looked into that because I was curious about that, and
business
there's
plot.
not a heck of a lot of evidence that actually happened. There was the one guy who gave testimony before Congress, and they couldn't find much to go on. On the other hand, they probably wouldn't have looked too hard.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of one of those, let's investigate ourselves.
Yes, exactly.
So, I mean, it might have happened, but if so, we don't have any evidence, and it could have just been some nut job. So
so not a lot of evidence on the go if the business plot actually happened. So it definitely works. But like the other half of the people who said no, one of them was like the father of the David Koch. So yeah, same kind of like assholes from before, so assholes now.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and call it. I'm getting wore out. I need to poop, take the dog for a walk, things like that.
3 hours. That's a good show. We had a lot to talk about too. So and there's like very little empty space as well. So Joey, thank you for coming and joining us for us. And you're always welcome to look. You're always welcome to come on anytime, since you are in. You have the access to the link, and I'm gonna promote your Patreon, and that's the Patreon right there for Joey Fire Lame Deer. When do you eventually get around to it? You said like how limited the spoon seed you have, so it's like you only find nothing happens.
I have a list of subjects now, so I'm about ready to start writing.
But hey, Joey says that like they are a queer, indigenous, disabled person who's struggling to get on disability. That's reason enough to give them a little money each month, as it were. For me, Summer and Geek on Twitch, Summer and Geek on YouTube, Summer and Geek on Twitter, and I'm going to stream later today. Not sure when I'm going to stream. Probably some gaming, maybe like Dead Cells or Hades. So check that out. And also give Phoenix money. The copy pasta that's a link to for Phoenix's GoFundMe right there. There you go. And of course, don't forget about charity links page as well for a bunch of other charity links and other people putting up their fundraisers, GoFundMe's and PayPal pools and Vimeo and Cash Apps and all that other good stuff. And so, John, you're a part of another podcast, aren't you?
Indeed, I am. Dungeons and Debacles, where we are ridding the world of an evil red dragon cult. They want to do bad things to people and bring back an evil red dragon that almost destroyed the world. Only the one time, but she did a lot. So, it's a lot of fun. Totally different from this. For one thing, it's edited.
Even though we don't edit this, sometimes we do good stuff on this show.
All right, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and cut off the stream. Bye-bye, everybody. Stay
Bye,
safe.
bye.